Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Davey.
Here.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Here.
Councilmember Laredo.
Here.
Vice Mayor London. Councilmember McCormick. Here. Councilmember Moss.
Here.
Councilmember Segurola. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Just real quick, if we could, if I've got consensus of council, we've got a special presentation, and the presenter is in an airport where he's available to make the presentation now, but he's going to be getting on a plane shortly. So I'd like to get that presentation done, if that's okay with everybody. We all good with moving that special presentation ahead of brief comments and public comments?
Yes,
Glenn
All those in
Waldman.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Perfect. All right. So Glenn Waldman's going to present on athletic fields utilization allocation, and that'll be it. Glenn, take it away.
he's already on the airplane.
That was about as fast as I could do that, Mr. Manager. So, you know.
Impressive. I don't know if Pete could catch up to you.
They're already taxiing.
Okay, Michael, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much for this time. I'm Glenn Waldman, 240 Woodcrest Road, and I've come to you tonight as the chairman of the Village Athletic Advisory Board, where I serve with Victor Balestra, Paul Zuccarini, Ken Cotto, Jimmy Lee, Jill Stevens, and Miriam Brill. I haven't been before you in a while, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but I want to give you a brief overview of where we stand on our sports and then get into the issues that we're facing now. Generally, the sports are going great. I mean, you haven't heard much from us because things are going well in conjunction with the Village Athletic Group. Todd runs it, is doing a great job, and our sports are run by really fine people. So things overall, I think, are as good as they've ever been. That's the good news. We obviously just had a census, which indicates we have more people on the island, and a large portion of them are more children. And we still have the same number of fields that we had before, though actually we have less because with respect to St. Agnes, we now have lost 25% of that field due to the construction, and we haven't had Crandon Park for a couple of years. Just to orient you very quickly and briefly, our current sports, and I'll talk about the field sports first. In flag football, we have about 140 children. That's the sport that we actually lost for a few years. It's come back and is on the uptick. We have baseball, which is way down from where it used to be, and it's got about 150 kids. We have rugby, which is a growing sport at about 200 children. Field hockey, which is capped out at 150 due to the amount of space that we have to run the program. And soccer does typically over 1,000. And it will continue to grow. Our core sports are basketball, which is at about 250 kids, and volleyball, which is about 180 children, which is also maxed out because of space and time. So, as most of you know, over the years, our sports have evolved. There used to be discrete seasons for each sport so children could play multiple sports. Almost all of our sports now are field sports. Are year-round. So really, it's become more of a specialized scenario for most of our children, which means that we're giving greater access to the fields because they're playing all year round. Our current challenge that we're facing is how do we provide equal opportunities based on our limited assets, while at the same time meeting the preferences and demands due to changes in demographics in our residents. We have convened a few special meetings. We generally meet monthly, but we've had a few special meetings in conjunction with the village manager to try to determine how we're going to deal with the fact that the demand that we currently have is way beyond the assets that we have to put out in order to satisfy that demand. And what we have done is we tried to begin to address field usage and field allocation. And field allocation is always a tricky thing. And right now we have field hockey and soccer that we're running up against each other because there simply isn't enough space for everybody to run their program as they want to run their program. So what we are going to propose is the following, and this proposal I'm not asking you to vote on tonight, but I do expect to come back to you at your next meeting, which I think is November 16th, after we've given an opportunity to all the sports to chime in as to how they feel about it, and we'll certainly consider their views. But what we're basically proposing in the interim, until we're able to get some additional assets if we can, are two things. First is that all sports will be capped at the current registration numbers for this season, with the exception of the underperforming sports, which really is baseball and flag football. But for example, soccer, flag football, and rugby will all be capped at their current levels for the coming years until we can figure out how to get more fields. And that may not be the end of it, but that's certainly the beginning of it. And then the other thing that we will likely bring before you when we come back on November 16th is that all of our sports where children are 10 years old and younger will be solely for Key Biscayne children. Currently, we have what's called the 70-30 rule, which says that all of our sports teams, so in soccer, there's 50 different teams. Every single team must have a minimum of 70% of their children Key Biscayne residents, and up to 30% can be off-island residents. Now, as our kids get older, in order to field our teams, in some sports, we need the supplement from off-island to be able to field a full team and to compete. But at the lower levels, we don't think we need that. So I think what we are planning on proposing, what we have come up with, again, subject to discussions with the various sports, is that we're going to cap all sports. 10 and under, it's just Key Biscayne kids. And that'll allow us to further develop our kids and focus on our children. And obviously that's a hardship for people off the island, but our focus is our kids and our families. So that's kind of where we currently stand. And these are interim measures, but I think we have to try to do something. And we're trying very hard to balance between the needs of the people here on the island and the realities of what we have to work with. And soccer has grown from 400 to 600 to 800 to 1,000. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't put a freeze next year. They could be 11 or 1,200. And that's great. We have an amazing soccer program. You're doing a great job. But again, that is overwhelming our fields and the utilization by the other sports, which all of them we want to see continue to grow and succeed. So that's kind of the state of the state. And I wanted to share that with you and see if you have any questions or comments or anything. And I do fully expect to come back to you a month from now with probably the same proposal and ask if you'll adopt that, because we think at this point, this is probably what we need to do in the interim as we start to look at more fields. And again, I know that's something that is being done by committees, but I don't know that we're making progress, and I'm not being critical, but that's something that as we have more children has become more clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. I guess, yeah, my question would be, this 10-year-old, I understand. I know how hard it is for you guys. I know how hard it is for Todd, that we really are up against it because, I mean, we've been cursed by our own success. We've got more families here, we've got more kids here, and so now we've got to deal with this problem. I guess the 10-year-old age, was that something that's already been discussed, or is this the first time you're proposing that here? Is that you've come to a consensus on that?
Yeah, we've come to consensus with on our board that this is appropriate. And actually, we did this in conjunction with the village manager, and we thought that would be a good place to start. And so, yes, this is not me. This is us, and thinking this is the right thing to do. But again, I think it is only fair that give the sports an opportunity to come to us. We have a meeting on November 13th, which is 3 days before your next meeting, and hear what they have to say and see if there's anything else we wish to consider before I come to you formally and ask you to implement this.
Right. All right. Councilmember McCormick.
Thank you very much for this and for all the time that you put in to making sure that we have the best programs available for our kids and adults. My question relates to the 10 and under. About how many people do you think that will impact? Like, in other words, how much space is that going to make available?
I don't think, Councilmember McCormick, that it's going to open that much space. We looked at the numbers, and I think in soccer, it's going to have the largest impact, and it may be 50 children altogether. That's it. So that's not a large percentage. In the other sports, it'll be a smaller amount. I think in rugby, it'll be 20, 25 or so. Field hockey, maybe 10 to 15. The other sports, it's de minimis. So it's not going to really correct the problem. But again, what we don't want to do is we don't want to ruin the sports for our older children who need this more than anybody. They need these healthy outlets. So I think we do need the additional assistance of our family kids. So we kind of think that this is a good place to start, see how it works, and then we can revisit. But that's kind of where we're at.
And then I have one other question, which is probably super controversial. I'm not advocating, I'm asking. Has there been discussion about, maybe in some of the intramural levels, about not providing year-round sports in say, soccer, or trying to get more people to play flag football? I know year-round sports is a national trend, but given our
Yes.
considerations on space, have you guys talked about it, and where have you come out?
Sure. Yeah, and that's a good question. I mean, the reality is with field hockey and soccer, it really is not. There's an intramural component, but it's really a travel sport. And soccer, I believe we have 32 travel teams, or maybe more. So it's really, it's not intramural that we're really looking at. The intramural is really with our indoor sports mostly, with basketball and volleyball, which, by the way, if we do get access to St. Agnes in time, they both always had designs on going more time, and that's just the trend. So I don't think it's realistic. If we cut back our programs, then our kids would leave our island, and then they look to play elsewhere because that's just not working anymore.
Councilmember McCormick, Councilmember London, Vice Mayor London, and then Councilmember Laredo. Looks like you want to say something.
Like Allison, thanks for your effort and help making this a great program. You've done a census, I assume, while you pick number 10-year-olds. Did you do a census for 11, 12, 13, how that would affect things? Is 10 a magic number, or is it a number that you believe that today or shortly after today would give us the best bang for our buck as far as reducing the number of off-island residents?
It's certainly not the number that will give us the best bang for our buck, to be candid, but we have to weigh the impact that it'll have on the ability to field teams at a higher level. So no, we really haven't done a census at a higher level, and I think what we'd like to do is at least start with 10 and really take a hard look at it and see what the impact is, and then look at higher levels, because from my perspective, I'd love to have Key Biscayne sports only for Key Biscayne kids. I really would. But I just don't think that that's going to work, especially in our soccer program right now. So it's not a magic number, Councilmember London. It's the number right now that we like to start with.
Well, you say I think you had 1,000 or close to 1,000 people in soccer.
Yep.
Am I believing then that we need 30% or 300 people in order to have good teams, that with our 700, we can't do a good job without getting the other 300?
No, not at all. And that 1,000 also includes intramural, which really should only be Key Biscayne kids. But no, it's not 300. It's something less than that. But really, once you get beyond a certain level, and I think it's 11 or 12, we're not going to have enough kids here to be competitive based on what we have in Key Biscayne with the other programs. Hence why there's some filler from these off-island programs, off-island kids, if you will, to round out the teams and to make them competitive. Because otherwise, if they're not competitive, frankly, what you'll have is you'll have flight, and you'll have the kids from Key Biscayne who are any good leaving the island to play in Pinecrest and other places because our teams won't be competitive. So it's kind of a pull and tug here, you know. So.
Thank you.
Councilmember Laredo, did you have something to say?
No, just to thank him as well, but I guess you know by now that this is becoming an increasingly difficult issue for some of us, our elected officials, because people are beginning to feel, some feel left out, et cetera, and I just want to thank you. And one of the problems we've had, Mr. Manager, in our administration, and we don't communicate well with the public, as I was telling Todd. You've been working on this. This came up in August, and some people call, what's happened, and you don't even brief us about all the work that he just explained, and Todd briefed me. They've been working at this problem since August. That is the committee and you and Todd, and I think people need to know that. They're difficult, very difficult decisions. We didn't just sit around doing nothing. There are no easy solution. I think I got the answer to my second question. I don't know where the 30% magic and also the, you don't want to play down on competition. So I'm just going to have to take your word for it, because that's also a basketball golden rule. Don't play with people who are worse than you. And I imagine that's the answer you gave about the 30%, that it increases our competition or talent. Is that correct? Plain English?
There's really two parts of it. That's one part of it. That's accurate. The other part of it, again, as we get to 13, 14, 15, 16, a lot of our children who played the sport have other interests. They're now in the middle school and high school. And if we don't have other children, we won't have enough kids to field teams. So that's at a higher level. And by the way, 70-30 was not magical. We came up with that number maybe a decade ago in order to stop the influx that was coming. But it wasn't a magical number. There wasn't based on any empirical studies. It just seemed to be a number that was fair. And we could raise it to 80-20. We could raise it to 90-10. We could raise it to 100-0. But I've kind of told you why I think we need to have at least some at the higher levels. And 10 may not be the ultimate answer. And again, we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a situation, and I'm not casting any aspersions, where we with the amount of children we have, we really don't have the ability to serve them all, and that's unfortunate.
Councilmember McCormick?
Let me just because you gave me a long answer to I wanted a shorter, whether it's 20 or 30%. Yeah, but I mean, because I'm trying to speak to the people who are listening. Okay? What you're saying is that magic, whether it's 30 or 20%, is based on the fact that you feel that heightens the competition, therefore the quality of the development for our kids, correct? By bringing in this
the competition, and yes, it allows us to field teams that we otherwise wouldn't be able to field.
Well, the second part, I'm not so sure, because if you're going to cap at 1,000, somebody of intelligence is going to say, well, if you're going to cap at 1,000, why didn't you just cut the 30%? So let's just separate the two. You understand what I'm saying? If you're going to cap at 1,000 right now, let's say on soccer, that means that there may be 100 kids off Key Biscayne who will be excluded because of that 30% rule. So, but the rule, whether it's 30 or 20.
Respectfully, no.
Okay.
Because that is the new registration numbers for this season, and we're accepting all kids for this season. So we are letting anybody who's joined the program, and this just started. So this will run until next August. So the soccer program, everybody who signed up, as long as all teams observe the 70-30 rule, all kids are able to play. So we're not kicking anybody out now. Okay. This won't take effect for each sport, assuming you agree with us when we come back next month, starting when the next season begins for each sport.
Two quick points and maybe you can put it in a report. Number one, I assume, and I said that at the beginning in praising your work, that you are reaching out to all of these groups, so nobody's being left out. Each sport.
Oh, precisely. That's why we're going to have a meeting.
I understand. Right. I just want to restate it
100%.
so that people can hear it. And if you would give us some report, either in private or that, about the role, which I do not understand, of these so-called private academies. I don't understand that concept, particularly on soccer. Perhaps when you come back, you can explain. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Curiously, what do we charge Key Biscayne residents for the soccer program?
It depends whether it's travel or intramural, and I believe our children pay $50 less than off-island children pay. I don't know the exact number. It's gone up.
Councilman,
But it's competitive with the other programs. It's not higher than the other programs.
No, it's any higher. So we do give a discount. What I'm trying to find out, we give a discount to Key Biscayne versus off-island. Is that correct?
Our kids pay less, yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember McCormick?
Glenn, I want to just go back to this idea of trying to get the 30% to field teams for the older kids. And it's my understanding that while we clearly want to be competitive and to have a good program, that we're not really building teams that are so incredibly competitive, and that's why we're doing the 30%. We're looking for an opportunity to fill out a team so that our children who are in that age group have an opportunity to play. And I guess my question is, are we turning away any of our own residents to fill, in order to put 30% from off the island to fill out a team for competition? Or are we just using that 30% to fill out a team to have an opportunity for our own residents that want to play to be able to play? Does that make sense?
It's more the latter than the former. I don't believe we're turning away a lot of our residents, and if we were, we would change things because that would be clearly anathema to what we're trying to do here. I think that there could be a child or two that if they didn't make a certain team may not have a place to play if they weren't of the level on a travel program, and that's why we have an intramural program. And really, we're only talking about soccer here. The other sports we really don't have the issue with because they're not of the size. So it's really soccer is really what we're talking about. So no, I don't think we're turning away kids. And there are some other things that we want to do, like make sure that registrations, and we do this with some of our sports, for Key Biscayne Kids comes first, so all Key Biscayne Kids can register before anybody off island can. We had done that before when there was a big demand for volleyball. We're going to reinstitute that for all our sports going forward so that our kids get to register first.
And the programs where you are totally maxed out, like example of volleyball and basketball, do we have off-island people playing in those?
Volleyball wasn't maxed out this year.
Oh, really?
No, because of the COVID.
But it will be. It will
Yeah.
be back. I mean, I think that was COVID.
That was
Volleyball
COVID.
has always been maxed out.
Right.
I think incredibly small numbers. I mean, basketball is not maxed out by any means. It's only
Okay.
volleyball.
Right.
And I don't know, and I will find out when I come back before you on the 16th, Councilwoman, but I think there was very, 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 very few. And here's the thing. The way we do it is Key Biscayne kids get to register first, but of course, a lot of times parents don't take advantage of the opportunity and wait. And unfortunately, then we open it up to everybody else. And by the time that they get around to it, they snoozed.
Yeah. I think I'm done, although that just reminded me of something else, that if we could try to work towards online registrations, I think that would be amazing. I definitely hear a lot of parents frustrated with the need to come into the community center to register for things. It's hard.
All right, we good?
That's a Todd issue.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a board
I was
issue.
looking at him.
Okay. All right.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is brief comments by council.
Right. Well, first,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you, Glenn. I apologize. You got cut off. Appreciate it. Have a good flight home.
Keep up the good work.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you. I appreciate it.
First, let me just offer condolences. Our first village clerk, Guido Inguanzo, I don't know if people know, he passed away, I think about a week ago. So he was our first village clerk. So obviously our thoughts go out to his family in their time of sorrow. I know a number of people here knew him. I've met him a few times. Good guy. So we're very, very sorry. And I know the folks in Pinecrest are very sorry to lose him.
And a young man.
Yeah, 54. Wanted to give a brief report. The vice mayor, the manager, and myself went to Tallahassee. Nobody got arrested. I think we can all put that in the win column. Yes, Vice Mayor London, I'm looking at you. But we had some excellent conversations with folks up there about infrastructure work. We met with the folks at the PSC, and we sort of got some insight into what we need to do moving forward. I think the manager is probably going to talk about this later on. But I think it was a very productive meeting. It was good to be up there with the manager and the vice mayor, both who could speak the language. It's incredibly helpful to have folks up there who can speak in acronyms, which is the manager overall. We'd have to stop him every once in a while and say, I don't know what you just said, but it sounds good for us. But at the end of the day, and Vice Mayor, I think we came away with some really positive conversations. We had some I mean, some ideas came out of directors of departments up there as to how they could work with the Village of Key Biscayne on our infrastructure projects that we've been talking about. And the thing they mentioned the most was, it's so great that you have the general obligation bond. So I think that was, to have the 100 million in bond to go toward the resiliency program is incredibly helpful at this juncture. So that was that. I think that's really all I say. I know everybody had flooding problems on Friday, and we're going to see this. Look, it's king tide season. It's October, but we're working on it, and we're going to keep working on it until we get it right. Councilmember Moss.
Thank you. And thank both of you for going up there to Tallahassee and work on our behalf. And I heard from the manager that you guys did a good job up there. So thank you, all of you, for going up there. I also just want to make a brief comment that I was able to attend the Piano Festival concert. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, and it was amazing. It really was. It was held in at the Turtle Fountain. I think the venue was, just the sound quality was beautiful. I only meant to go there just to see the setup and maybe the first song. Ran home, grabbed my older daughter, brought her there. We stayed there for 40 minutes. She had a blast. It was beautiful. And if any of you or anybody at home has not been to it, I highly recommend it. It was extremely high quality. So thank you very much, and for everybody putting that together.
Great. All right, next item.
Next item is public comments.
All right, I have one, Marcelo is signed up. Did you want to speak, or did Glenn do it? You want to speak? You got 3 minutes. And then Pete, if you would, Marcelo, give me a second. Pete, if you would read the instructions so that everybody at home can start getting lined up to jump in and comment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, watching us on channel 77 on Comcast, channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website. If you would like to speak on any topic, please dial the following phone number, 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you currently in the meeting, listening to speak, if you're calling in, please dial *9 on your telephone to raise your hand, or if you're dialed in with the Zoom app, please simply raise your hand within the application.
Okay, Marcelo, lead us off. You have 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Marcelo Radice. I live in 70 Bay Heights Drive, Miami, Florida. I was an 18-year resident here on Key Biscayne. I think that was a great preamble for me, for Glenn, because I can answer some of the questions that he couldn't answer. I'm president of the Key Biscayne Soccer Club. I've been running it for 12 years. We're still owned and operated by residents of Key Biscayne, with my exception that I've moved off island, but I'm over in Bay Heights. So this has always been a special, project for me. And what I wanted to share with you, first of all, is we've been doing online registrations for over 10 years, ever since we operated the program. Another thing that I wanted you all to know is that, I started as girls commissioner, and girls soccer was always something very important for me. So what we have done over the last 10 years, we've seen sports evolve and fizzle out, like American football and baseball, unfortunately, are, holding on and being replaced by some new sports like rugby and field hockey, through what I call the Argentine factor. A lot of the Argentinians that came to this island, who were ex-professional players, decided to put together these programs, and now they're thriving for a certain community. Soccer has always, until it was managed properly, quite frankly, it was always the most demanding sport. It had the most children. We have always conceded and worked and collaborated with all the other sports to make sure that as those sports start to grow, we apportion the appropriate amount of space and allocate the space, knowing that we've always had a finite space. We lost Crandon. Now we've lost a piece of St. Agnes. So we still try to work within the confines of what we have. And so far, we've been collaborating pretty well. I know we are finally capped out. We cannot accept another player in our program. We're just under 1,000. We're about 975. 425 of those kids are intramural. About 550 of those are in the competitive soccer program. 88% of our kids in competitive soccer are from the island. 84% of the children in our rec program are from the island, are residents from the island. So we're well above the 70-30 rule. So going to his points there about how many, if you want to raise it or low, even if you go to 80, it will have a minimal impact with the soccer program. We've been very fortunate that we've had very talented kids, especially on the boys' side, that came here and play soccer here. And we've developed a program now that has excelled at the competitive level. And we know that it all starts with our recreational program, because those are the future little players that come through. And literally in the 10 years since I've been running this program, to see our 8-year-olds then eventually start playing at the ages of 17 and 18 and win and qualify for state championships shows that the process has worked. I just want to say that we are at a point now where I think we need to, your body has to really come up with some hard decisions.
Marcel, I got to ask you to wrap up real quick.
And I'm here to help and collaborate in any way possible to find more field space. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Pete, do we have anybody signed up online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no one signed up to speak.
Nobody signed up to speak. Okay, we will have another public comments portion of the evening later on.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the agenda. Approval deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Does anybody have anything they want to add, subtract? Okay. Hearing none. We have one more special presentation from the former mayor. He had a board meeting, but I think it's imperative that we hear from him. It's a Virginia Key Advisory Board update. So when he comes in, you know, if it's the will of council, I'd like to allow him the time to give the presentation then. Okay, so we'll skip that. We'll table that for now. We'll go to the consent. Well, I don't want to.
Next item is the consent agenda.
Moved.
Second.
Thank
I have
you.
a question on clarification, July 6 minutes, the page 3 or 4. At the bottom, where it says it was a consensus of council to set the trim at 3.337. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, what happened was that we had a motion for a different one, and then it was withdrawn out of courtesy to one of our members who was absent.
You're right.
And
We had a
if
tie
that's
vote, and then
correct, and it should be that, it should read that way for two reasons, because it reflects the truth, and second,
Is that at the hearing or the workshop?
I think that was at the September hearing, council member. That was at the first budget hearing.
correct.
September.
This is just setting.
July 6th.
where that is then.
Well, it's not.
Not on here. This is July 6th.
This is July 6th.
This is not,
No, this isn't the hearing. This was our trim notice when we had to send out a notice.
I understand, but I thought it was the same thing. By the way, I really think to minimize misunderstandings, that we stop using the word consensus. We ought to take votes, and it turns out to be 7-0. Whenever you have consensus, it's a very nebulous and non-committal kind of word.
Okay,
I brought this up before.
Change it to the council set the trim notice for.
Yeah,
Fine. Then the council set the trim notice for
And let's just call
FY.
some of these, Mayor, well, let's just call the question. Usually, we de facto, we do get a consensus, because it would have been 7-0. It just reads better if it's 7-0.
That's fine. Just say, change that to say.
But sometimes there's not a question before. It's consensus because there's not a
So
question.
but the council set,
It's not an actionable
I think,
item.
it was consensus because it was a workshop.
right, it was a workshop. There was no
But I
vote.
understand Councilmember Laredo.
Yeah,
has
his
said this
point
a
is
long
Let me tell
time,
you
so we
something,
can
folks.
word
I'm
it
not Mickey
differently.
Mousing this. Setting the rate, this is like as core as can be to our duties, which is setting the rate by which people pay taxes. This is not just about the field.
This is not
I
a
would
rate.
only urge constructively, again, that on issues of this kind of magnitude, whether you call it a workshop or not, that we just take a vote. It's better for all of us as we move forward. It's
But I
my
think we're
opinion.
bound by
I've been
Robert's
through a
rules
lot
of
of other
order that we
boards.
can't
I'm
do
telling you.
Wait, he's speaking. Let him speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because we just go off in the right. I'm softly suggesting that we have issues
notwithstanding whether there's a budget works or whatever that are pivotal, like setting the millage rate, we should have a vote so that there's no.
Okay, Councilmember McCormick, then Councilmember Moss.
I'm fine.
Okay, Councilmember Moss?
No, I'm fine.
No, I think the point is, this was a budget workshop. There wasn't an action item here. I think that's the confusion we're having. The manager had to set out a trim notice that we couldn't exceed. And so he needed to do something at that point, which is why there was consensus of council for that point. You may have voted against it, and his point about the consensus of council is fine.
Definitely voted against
The
it.
council set the trim notice.
That's fine.
That's fine. Just take that. Do you understand? The council set,
Was not a consensus.
the
for
council, just the point is the council set the trim notice and the rest is fine.
Let me
That's it.
see if Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me see if I understand. Maybe I have an English deficiency. It was the consensus of the council to set, that's an affirmative act, to set the trim notice for fiscal year 22 at the manager's recommendation, as of the manager's recommendation. If that's not an action, I don't know what is an action. And so whenever you have those kinds of action, it should be either, it's perfectly fine to have 6-1. It's okay. What's wrong with saying 6-1?
I have no problem with it at all.
But when you say consensus, it came to mind that you voted against it. I was going to, just like I was trying to better the language as respect to the other final decision, and also that because we also were very civic to each other and that deferring back because of the absence of one of them. I'm just trying to get this right for posterity.
That's fine.
That's all. So
Okay.
if we move forward. I think that's all I have, so if you want to call the question, that's
call the
perfectly
question.
fine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry?
Ignacio said aye.
He said aye.
Oh, thank you. The motion carries. The
Next
next item, Mr. Mayor, is the second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, comprehensively updating and revising Chapter 30 zoning and land development regulations of the Village Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Moved.
I'm sorry, who moved? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thinking Madam Clerk, but no, it's Mr. Manager. I guess, well, is it Brett's, who should,
I think the manager.
let the manager bring it out.
So if we would, is Olga here? Yep. Would you like to come up to the podium so we can have a conversation? So, Mr. Mayor, we do recommend to go forward with approval of these discussions we've had over the last 3 workshops. However, we do have 3 additional recommendations we'd like to add, and we'd like to open it up to conversation.
Okay,
May I just get on the record before we start that the gratitude that I think I owe to our fearless leader over there, Brett, for the dedication to this meticulously and I'm sure boring and so overdue to professionalize this thing. It's a labor of love for him. 3, hearing there isn't one citizen in this island can complain to me or anybody else that they didn't have enough opportunity. He went out of his way to have all kinds of forums at all kinds of hours, and I think he needs our thanks.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And let the record reflect that, please.
That we all clap.
That we all clapped. We all clapped.
Make the record.
All of us
Consensus of
clapped.
clapping.
I didn't hear
Reflect.
Segarola, but I'm assuming he clapped as well. There was a unanimous clapping.
No, it's going to see. We couldn't hear him.
All right. Sorry, Olga. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Olga Garcia, 88 West McIntyre Street,
You live there, don't you?
for the record. And yes, thank you to Brett for all this work that we've been putting in. I know I came in at the end, but it's all thank you to Brett Moss, and he spearheaded these changes. Now, I don't want to have to get through the presentation from the beginning. I know you guys have all been part of these changes from day one. So for the most part, I know this is probably, this is something that I'd like to share with the council. It's a line item changes of proposed recommended changes that are not included with your packet, just for clarity, because I think there are a couple of items that would grant some information in. And then the second one would be for proposed recommended changes after the zoning workshops. So if you wish, can I share this with you all?
Sure, please, everybody.
And Olga, before you start, I don't want to take all the credit and the thank you. So there's a lot of people that were involved with this.
Well, yeah.
Olga, our previous, you've done a lot of work, and I want to thank you for that and your time. Chad and your team as well. Our new manager, previous manager, our previous zoning director. And as well as Frank Kaplan, you were much involved when you were not on council, and probably on council that I don't know much about, but I know that you've probably been working with manager with. And we have a lot of people that are part of our community who donated, and volunteered a lot of their time in many meetings that we had as well. So I want to thank everybody and anybody, and if I forgot anybody, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people involved, and I can't take all the credit, so thank you to everyone who helped.
Thank you. Very nice.
All right, we're all clapping for everybody.
And by the way, the presentation was excellent. You can actually understand it, and I showed it to a couple of citizens, and they thought, wow, that's great, because it's very, very people-friendly.
Okay, so these changes that you're saying, these 11 points were not in the packet?
If I can clarify really quickly,
please.
So the 11 points actually something that we worked on in the last 2 weeks. Stuff that when I was reviewing it, Olga was reviewing it. We kind of pinned some small little things that didn't show up, some small adjustments, and the other items that are on the second page is what Councilmember Kaplan asked for, is the changes from the workshop to what you have actually in front of you. So there was a couple additional things that we were still revising and reworking in that moment when we presented. So so those are the two things, and I think that after the presentation, I was thinking, I could get some of your feedback first if you want, and then I could go through these, or I could go through these first and then get your feedback. But they're pretty minor. I think that
That's the question I had.
I don't think they're anything too major.
How does it affect legally if this is second reading? Can we just move the second reading to get it approved and then amend it, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can add these changes.
Actually, I have a comment I'd like to add.
Go ahead. Sorry, you're not on the screen, so I can't see you waving. You're going to have to speak up. Go ahead, Councilmember Segurola.
Sorry. Yeah, this was an issue that was brought to my attention by Michelle Estevez. I had not caught it, but I believe she's correct. I believe it's section 30.34 of this ordinance, starting in line at number 176. It's a requirement for surveys, both before and after application for permits. The issue is that, as Michelle brought to my attention, a survey for a large condominium property is much more expensive and extensive than for a house. The number she gave me is maybe approximately $900 for a house, but a condominium can be $10,000 or more per survey. So the economic burden for this requirement might become an issue.
Yeah, we addressed that when Michelle was actually.
What page?
740.
So Michelle was actually part of the
740.
volunteer group that we've had up there, and she brought this issue up. So what we did is we extended the years to 3 years. Instead of, it used to be, I believe, 1 year, Chad. It used to be that whenever you submit a permit, the survey had to be within 1 year. So we extended that to 3 years to reduce that burden on, and we can decide if we want to extend it more if we want to, but the recommendation came back as 3 years. For houses, we extended it to 2 years instead of 1 year. So we wanted to release the burden on different locations.
That's lines 177, 178,
Yeah, but when you look
179.
at 182, it says they can submit an affidavit, say that nothing's been changed. So
That's
therefore,
right.
they wouldn't require
And then
a
you can do
survey.
that too. If nothing has changed, you can do the affidavit.
Would that take care of it?
That was the
Ignacio?
saving.
Yeah.
That was the.
Yeah, that would, for a
Yeah.
condominium, that would.
So that's how we, that was an issue that did
No, I
come
think
up.
it's fine.
Michelle brought that to our attention when we were there, and this is what we brought up so that it would reduce that burden to condominiums, specifically large projects like condominiums and commercial projects.
That's absolutely, I would have no problem, again, because
Would the council consider extending it from 3 years to more?
Well, again, if nothing has changed, you just submit the affidavit.
The
So you could go
affidavit.
past the 3 years.
correct.
And that kind of is like the thing that saves from there. I mean, unless somebody wants to change the years, it's fine also.
I mean, I think 3 years is reasonable. You've done the work. hopefully you've done your survey and your work is done in 3 years.
Yeah, the idea is not to create an undue burden
Correct.
on, especially for condominiums and commercial projects that it costs a lot more.
Right.
So that's kind of the idea, is that we want to reduce that burden.
I want to understand, I'm not understanding it. If we extend it, I think he's suggesting to, let's say, 4 years, is that helps, Commissioner Segurola, would that help the condo or not?
Because there's already another thing in there.
Because the way that it's worded, it is correct that you can submit an affidavit, but, and again, I'm thinking like a lawyer, not like an architect, but it says conditions depicted are current. I don't know how fungible or how, not fungible, how strict or not that term is in terms of the exterior conditions. If a tree has been changed, is that the same?
Not necessarily, no. This would be in reference to in the event that you have a 3-year-old survey, we've accepted it. And when we go out there to do an inspection, we see that there's an accessory structure that wasn't on your survey. Correct. Then if that's an example of conditions not being current, that in that point in time, then we would ask you for an updated survey. So that's really more in what it's in reference to, just to ensure that whatever they're submitting.
The exterior construction.
Yes.
The exterior construction, right. We don't get involved too much with the interior, no.
But, you know, here's another savings.
Yeah.
If there was a minor accessory structure, in support of a survey affidavit, you could have a site sketch to depict the location of something minor. You wouldn't need a new survey necessarily.
No.
You also would go to your surveyor and ask for an updated survey, which would be cheaper too.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, that's what, if
But the problem with the duration is if there is a change, a material change, and it happens to fall outside of that time window, this whole thing is defeated.
Right, correct. I mean, there's a balance here. I mean, look, condo owner, condo board, and I understand, and I appreciate Michelle's looking out for us, but at the same time, we have to look out for the village.
The only thing different, if nothing has changed, Ignacio, you're worried that if nothing has changed and you go outside the 3 years, it would cost you guys money to go back and do it, correct?
Yeah.
But in that.
Yes, I just don't know how strict that interpretation is going to be. It's up to the building official, I would assume.
No, it'd be planning and zoning, the zoning reviewer or the planner, whomever is reviewing for zoning.
Right.
But you're submitting an affidavit. But you're submitting an affidavit, so the liability falls on the person submitting the affidavit, because zoning's not going to go out there and start looking at. I mean, you're going to submit whatever survey you have, and the affidavit saying that you're attesting that this is the same of what's out there. So it's your responsibility as the owner to ensure that that's correct. So if nothing has changed, you could be you could have a 10-year-old survey, nothing has changed, you just fill out the affidavit and submit it. But if something has changed, it's on you guys, because at the end of the construction, you have to submit a survey anyways.
Right.
And if something there that wasn't part of the construction,
And as built.
yeah, be your as-built. So I think you're okay.
Yeah, I don't think.
Right, was this affidavit added?
What?
Sorry.
What would be the purpose of moving it to 5?
Just to eliminate the gray areas,
I don't think it would make
and just having that flexibility.
I don't see a gray area.
with the affidavit, that would cover you.
I'm sorry, if I may add, Michelle just informed me that an affidavit costs $3,000.
What?
No.
No, it would be a form by
That's
the
why you go to
village.
Davie for
It would be a
the
form.
Yeah, it's not a survey affidavit. It's just a.
It's
It's just a form that you sign. That's it.
I could do what is she talking
Michael Davis is going to
It's not by
charge you
surveyor, it's by
$2,000.
me- It's by president of the board or whoever you want
Yeah,
to
the owner has to sign
file
it.
the affidavit. Whoever's the owner's rep, essentially.
I think it says furnished
But I'll take
by-
3,000 to do the survey.
Well, you'll
Anybody
do
wants an
for 2,000,
affidavit,
give
wants
him
to
a
pay
deal.
3,000, Mike Davey is available. I got a tape measure and everything, yeah. I'm going to negotiate against Ed and Laredo over there. I'm going to lowball this thing.
Comes down to the issue really comes down to the city. If there are changes, do
Correct.
you want to allow things to continue happening
that's
there
the
for
question.
5 years?
Right.
That's really our concern. If we want to allow that much time to elapse where people are doing things and we're not sure if something has changed there.
We wouldn't catch a material change if we did that.
Yeah, you would have a difficult
That's the
time
issue.
catching it. But if nothing has changed, they wouldn't have a burden on it.
I just don't see this as a problem or a gray area at all.
I don't think so
Wait,
either.
hold on, Segarelli, Councilmember Segarelli, you recognize?
Adding language in there that says the notarized affidavit is submitted by, or signed by the owner as opposed by a surveyor.
It says the applicant. It says the
The applicant.
The applicant.
The applicant, yeah. It says it there already.
The applicant
Right, but the applicant
wouldn't be the surveyor.
submits it, but the notarized affidavit signed, executed by the owner. We'll clarify who signed it.
Do we have a standard?
Actually, I think this is better. I mean, if I'm looking at it, I don't want you to specify. Because if I'm the president of the board, I'm saying it says I may submit a notarized affidavit. I've submitted your notarized affidavit. It doesn't say it has to be from a surveyor. It doesn't specify who has to do it. I mean, I'm happy with this language.
Because there's a vacuum, the building official can say, no, it has to be by a surveyor. If there's not that clarification.
No, it's just an affidavit in a form approved by the village attorney.
Right.
So it would be a form that would be created in-house and.
Well, it's already
if
on
it's
record now, so.
Huh?
I said we put it on record now, so.
Yeah. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this as an issue.
It may be more of an issue to us as a village to allow to go to
That's,
5 years.
that, yes, I agree.
But it
I mean,
shouldn't
as
be
the
an
applicant,
issue
I
for
don't
the
think it's an
owners.
issue. We don't have to,
As long as they're not changing anything. You change something, then you have to pay for a survey.
I mean, council member, if you want to make a motion, make a motion.
I make a motion that we add language clarifying the affidavit can be executed by the owner.
Second.
Does that not make it
Attorney?
more complicated? How many
It's-
owners do you have in a building?
It's not the owner.
Well,
it's
sometimes
the
you need a tenant to do it.
Vice Representative?
By the, how about, can I make a
wait,
friendly
this is-
amendment?
this is-
Applicant may submit an affidavit of a representative of the association?
But wait, I have to tell you that this is not just for condos. These are for
That's right,
all other properties other than,
okay.
so it's not always associations that we're dealing with here. And sometimes you have tenants and the owners live somewhere else.
Have an owner and/or authorized representative.
Applicants.
A representative of the owner.
Can we just do signed by the applicant?
Isn't
That
what
clears
you
it.
We could say by the applicant,
It
or
just
the
says may
applicant's
submit.
authorized agent, if you want.
Okay.
Fine,
Authorized agent.
Yes,
That's fine?
Applicant or their authorized agent.
fine.
Good.
Everyone agrees?
All right, all those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Consensus.
Carries.
Excuse me, Brett, do you have my list? I've left it home.
So now I'm.
All right, so, okay, so that was one. What was the, let's go, well, let's continue with Olga. Olga,
Well,
sorry.
that is the only amendment to the document that I thought I was going to vote on today and read. So now we're going to go into a whole bunch of 11 considerations of things that I wasn't prepared, and I'm very allergic to 11th hour proposals.
Okay,
So I have other responsibilities, and I'm not going to vote. I don't even know what the merit of this is, but I'm going to vote no. It's not fair to the process. And I'm nothing, nobody to blame. But can these be done subsequently in another meeting? And we can pass this clean on second reading and then,
Let's go through it, and if you guys feel uncomfortable with it,
With
if
this?
you want to do that, we can. But let's go through what they are.
I mean, are there
They're not
any
that
other
major.
questions about what's been proposed? Let's take, to Councilmember Laredo's point, I think he's right. Are there any other issues with the with the ordinance as we received it in the packet?
which is a second reading.
We were all told to
Yeah,
submit our changes or
Right.
suggestion, which I did.
To-
And I had the whole list, and of course I left it at home, but Brett hasn't.
I'll bring that up for you.
So I have a bunch of things.
You have
What are you shaking your head for?
I'm just shaking my head. I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, it came up at first reading and I questioned it then, but it's number 7 on the changes after the workshop, which is the artificial turf.
Yeah.
I'd want to
Minor
eliminate
after
that.
workshop.
I don't know where this came from.
This is my suggestion on that one.
wait, which one it is? Oh, you want, yeah, here we go. This is Frank and me. Mano a mano over artificial turf.
We won't find consensus on
Yeah,
this.
we will not have consensus on
Frank,
artificial turf.
this would be my recommendation for this.
What is your issue with you don't like?
Well, first of all, I don't think the criteria that deals with community character
can possibly be met by this because we, among other reasons, specify that it can't be visible from the community. So we're concealing this visually, this feature. That's not consistent with community character.
Before we get into this, just so you guys know, this is line 946 on page 39.
Right.
My recommendation would be to remove this right now, and because I don't feel comfortable with it either, because this is something that came up at the last kind of minute, and it had to do with an issue that was going on in two places. And my recommendation would be to take it out, let our staff do a little bit more in-depth understanding, because my question is, how does this open up additional stuff that could happen other than those specific issues? So I talked to staff today, and I said I would like it to be removed and have them come back to us with that section.
I appreciate that, and I think that my conversation with Olga caused me also to reflect on whether there's another way to address. And I don't understand the condition that brought this suggestion forward, but it occurred to me that there might be other means to address that condition in a satisfactory way. And I'd like to know the answer to that question before I make a decision on this. But I'd like it removed, too.
For the record, I think it should be stayed in the thing, and I think it's very important, because what happens on the 7.5-foot sidewalks on the property line? There's no sun. You put grass or anything else down, it turns to mud. There's no reason, and they're not visible, there's no reason not to have artificial turf there. The same thing in the back of the property. I mean, this whole thing came about because the guy on Westwood put it in the front lawn. Mike Kelly didn't like it.
No, it wasn't Mike Kelly.
What?
Wasn't Mike Kelly.
I didn't like it either.
Okay, passed an ordinance. Okay, you couldn't go home if you didn't vote for it.
That is his
So
neighbor.
that's what it came down to. So, but this thing here is fine. You don't see it, what's the difference? I mean, it really makes sense to use this stuff if you have dogs, if you have no sun or anything else.
That's
And if
kinda-
people don't see it,
I
what's wrong with it?
just don't agree with it.
Okay, well,
Why?
make a motion on it. Make a motion.
I move to eliminate it, and if there's a good reason to come back and deal with it in the absence of another solution, I'm happy to entertain it if there's a
Is there a
compelling
second?
need.
I second that.
But
Why don't you like-
we're moving at high speed towards an ecological, naturalistic, botanical
Oh,
community.
God, those words are
This
beautiful.
is
Mark,
just
hey, Ed,
this is not
Vice Mayor?
consistent.
Sorry.
One thing that I want to say, I think it's valid to go ahead and remove it and revisit it. I mean, it's
Well,
ultimately
we got
up
to
to
vote
the
on the table.
council. I'm sorry, what?
We've got to vote on the table.
Sorry,
I
okay.
support the maintenance of this section. I think, I agree with that. I don't like to do this, but I agree with the vice mayor. Look, if you've got space in your backyard and it's not visible, and these are specifics, the specifications here are private streets. So if an association decides they want to allow in their private areas, if they want to allow people to utilize artificial turf, that's their right. And I think we should be allowing them to do it. I don't think we should be standing in the way.
Suppose they wanted to allow asphalt. We just have policies that forbid these types of things.
That's right, because
talking
your
about
artificial
permeation
turf
and
has to have a certain permeability. There are certain things about artificial turf that aren't the same as asphalt or concrete.
Let's call it.
I'm sorry, Frank, I just want to be very clear of what it is that you're, which lines?
946 to 948.
946,
There's a change.
I see it.
It's chapter 30, 242B3. It's indicated on Brett's changes, the second sheet, and
But
my
it's just
motion is to eliminate it.
946 to
It's only,
948.
it's only paren 3.
So, and I just want to add, Ed, I'm not saying you're wrong on this. I just don't know what we're opening up, because I know the specific issue was just between parking lots, which is fine. I understand that. I don't know if this opens the ability to blanket all the landscape with plastic. And I just want to make sure, if they go back, just to make sure that they're writing this correctly. And I have no problem with it coming back, and then we really know what we're doing. I just don't know, by putting in that code, did we just open a floodgate that
what's
maybe we
not
don't
correct?
want to control?
What's not
I don't
correct
know
about
what,
this?
I mean, is private right-of-way along, I guess, a street? I'm not sure how far private right-of-ways go.
Can't be visible from the public right-of-way.
I get that. But I just want to make sure what the ramifications are by putting that. That's all.
Okay, the reason I think it's fine, because it's not seen by the public.
Correct.
Our whole thing was, we didn't want to create an image of artificial turf and in Key Biscayne. And here we say that it's not seen by the public. Well, it's not seen by the public. What do we care? If that's what you want to put in the back of your house to the side and the public can't see it, what's wrong with it?
But
May I
that's
say
not
so-
what they're trying to remove.
Yes,
It's
they are.
not
That's
about-
the exception.
It's not about on the
What's
side
going
of
to
your
remove the
house.
exception?
No, this is just for like commercial condominium
commercial.
projects that have their own private streets.
Right.
They want to be able to put it in their front yards, specifically like Grand Bay, Oceana, that have the houses.
Oceana
They want to put it in their front
townhouses.
yard.
Correct.
And we're saying that, oh, because you can't see from the street, it's okay. But I just want to make sure, does this not open up other things? I might be okay with that, but does this open up other things that we might be concerned of? And I just want them to do a little bit further study.
But if you can't see it, what does it mean?
Let's call the question. I think you guys.
My question, it's a
May
question
I
I'm
say
asking
something?
you.
Some-
Maybe convince me to vote
If you
for
have
it.
something on, may I say something beforehand?
Certainly.
Okay. Artificial turf. I don't think we looked enough into this, and I always like to be inclusive and make sure that the majority of the community is happy with whether they want artificial turf or not. But I think it would beg, plead to look into it. Number one, I don't consider artificial turf to be permeable the way regular grass would be. Also, you have problems with heat islands. These are things that we have to look into. Maybe if you want artificial turf, maybe have a recommendation where you limit the front zone area to providing 30% green area, which is already in the code, but within the front zone area, maybe maintaining separation between the side lot lines. And these are just ideas, but this is something that I think we should
What a
discuss and
politician
look
you are.
into. Just saying.
You should be sitting up.
Huh?
Call it. I agree with what you just said, obviously. Call it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
I-
It's hard
Let's-
to
I was-
tell. May I do a roll call on
Yeah,
this?
do a roll call vote.
Thank you. Vice Mayor London.
No.
Councilmember McCormick.
Yes.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola.
No.
Mayor Davy.
No.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo.
No.
Motion fails.
All right.
Can we move now the second reading?
Well, are there any other items within this existing?
I have your email. Jocelyn,
That's
if
the
you
list.
can send this to Ed, you sent it to us on September 20th at 8:10 p.m. Do you want me to send it directly to Ed? I can do that or no? Is that
No, I
Sunshine?
didn't forget that. I forgot my phone.
Oh, you forgot your phone. Okay. All right.
What?
These
I
are
did
Ed's.
remember to come.
Yeah, after being reminded several times.
Date again?
This was on September 20th at 8:10 p.m. It was sent to all council members. These are comments from Councilmember London.
I'm sorry, what was the date?
September 20th, I believe. September
20th.
21st. September 21st, sorry. 8:10 p.m. No?
No, that's a different one. That's his blindside.
Yeah, it is. It's September 21st at 8:43 a.m.
I don't have that one.
Me neither.
Counselor, what?
I have that, yeah.
Counselor, can you put us back on track here? I am getting a little frustrated. I thought we were
Ed
doing.
sent some recommendations back
I
in
understand. I
September.
digested all of that, and I'm ready to vote on as presented. I lauded it. I thought it was a great effort. It's fabulous. I hate 11th hour changes. And, somebody brought up another change a little earlier. It should have been here. I do all my stuff here. I don't do private meetings. And I'm lost. I thought this is second reading. I'm ready to vote. Now I have 2 pages, 1 amendment, and 11.
No, those items are not up for.
Okay,
we're
so
not dealing
am I
with that
in
right now.
order, is it in order to just call the question on this? As is?
That's,
having
no,
a
because
discussion
we're having
about the
discussions right
Decision
now.
that we have to make, I think, still, policy decisions.
All right.
Maybe-
And
And a
also, you
public
also
hearing.
need to open up. the
And a public hearing, yeah.
Oh, shoot, I gotta do that next. All right. Well, can you resend us Ed's thing so everybody has it, other than Ed, who's doesn't.
Give it to Jocelyn so she can send it around.
She has it. September 21st.
I don't want to read anything from Ed London.
Welcome to the.
Mayor, do you?
I just sent
Mayor,
it to you
do
just
wanna
now.
Open it up for public
I just sent it to you,
hearing,
yeah.
And then
I'm
after
gonna
the
open up
public
the public
hearing,
hearing. Anybody here? Is there anybody here? And Pete, would you please read the instructions for those folks at home?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen that are watching us from home, if you have any comments to the second reading of the ordinance, please dial the following phone number, 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you currently in the meeting, on your telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. If you will be joining us via Zoom, just simply raise your hand within the application.
All right. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to?
I don't have anyone currently.
Okay. Now let me do this. Let me, while we're waiting for Jocelyn to send this thing around, why don't we table this for the moment and have the presentation from the Virginia Key Advisory Boards?
The mayor?
I believe he's here. Buzz, are you in the back?
Yeah, he just walked in.
Okay.
Who was this second for tabling?
Can we have a second for tabling?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Yes. There he is.
Opposed?
All right.
Motion carries.
So everybody's leaving now. They're closed for them.
Hey, listen, Mayor, you're running on Latin time, okay?
This is the best part of the meeting, Brett. What are you doing?
Sadly, you're true. You're right.
I want to give you some stuff just so you can follow along with me.
Hello there, Mayor.
How are you?
Very well.
Hey, Buzz.
Guys, how are you?
How you doing?
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thanks, Buzz. You, sir?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir.
I'll leave extras. The manager.
Appreciate
Good evening, and can I take this off?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, and thank you for taking me out of turn, Mr. Mayor. Although I'd love to stay around and listen to all you. But as you may or may not know, I've been serving as Key Biscayne's representative on the Virginia Key Advisory Board now for be 6 years. I remember when I was asked to do this, they said, oh yeah, it'll be a year. That being said, I think this board is extremely important and even more frustrating. I've given you a sheet here that gives an overall program schedule of projects and the phase that they're in, so you can better understand what is happening out on Virginia Key. And some ideas that by sitting through these meetings, I think we can have a possible stake in what goes on out there, possibly. If you look at the color chart at the top, it talks about the basic Marine Stadium site, where their funding is, their estimated cost, and their project schedule. And the colors are coordinated on the bottom with zoning, design, construction, planning, funding, and actual completion. As you can see, they are pretty much funded on everything out there except the Maritime Center. Meanwhile, everything that's here is in the master plan. So none of this, what you're looking at now, is anything that was not passed back in 2010 when the City of Miami passed their master plan. A couple things the advisory board has serious reservations about is the boat launch and trailer parking, simply because in the master plan, that entire area in front of the stadium was supposed to be a flex park. And now about 25% of it has become boat trailer parking. And the concern, among other things, that the board has raised, especially myself, is we all have seen what happens if you leave Saturday or Sunday morning, Key Biscayne, and the boats that are all queued up trying to get into Crandon Marina. Well, when they open this boat launch, there's going to be boats queued up trying to make a left into the Marine Stadium. I don't know how that's going to work if they don't have a traffic light there, and they don't have one now. They say they're not planning on putting one there. I don't want one there because we have one in front of Rosensteel, we have one in front of Mast. But we've also seen how bicyclists don't stop at red lights. So if you're trailering a 30-foot boat with a 20-foot truck, you have 50 feet plus, and you're crossing Crandon into the stadium, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And we've continued as a board, unanimously, has continued to object to this boat launch site where it's at. And they're claiming, the city that is, that there's always been a boat ramp there. It's just been inactive for 20 years. And we have aerial photos that we've presented that shows there was a ramp there back in the day, but the ramp was more for launching powerboat via crane than trailering a boat down. So there's a little bit of, and unfortunately, the people in the city now have no history going back 20, 25 years. So they're looking at it like, oh, there's a boat ramp there. Well, that boat, you can't launch a boat there now. I mean, your trailer will fall right off the ramp. But everything else on this sheet, with the exception of the Flex Park site, has been pretty much permitted, studied, looked at, and most of them are underway as far as either the construction or the design. They're in the process and they're going to be done. The one area, and it became a concern at our last meeting, because the city has engaged CB Ellis, a commercial real estate firm, to look at the Flex Park site. And immediately, I asked the presenter from the city, why do you have a commercial developer looking at a landfill site that's supposed to be ball fields? Right. Well, if you go to page 4, paragraph 3, line D.
Other commercial operators as restaurants.
Other commercial operators such as restaurants, convenience, retail, lodging, and campgrounds. None of which are in the master plan, with the exception of the campgrounds. I immediately raised this to the presenter from the city, and his basic answer was, well, times have changed. And I said, well, the master plan hasn't changed. And it just went into full-blown we'll get back to you and that type of stuff.
How long ago was that?
This was our last meeting.
Okay.
So, it's something that I think is, especially the lodging component. And I tried to get a definition, his definition of what that meant. Does lodging component mean 4 cabins? Or does it mean,
High-rise hotel.
Yeah, some kind of complex? And we got nothing. But the fact that they're paying CB Ellis to look into these things is very concerning to me as a citizen of Key Biscayne, and absolutely should be to you as the council here. I think without looking, too deep into this, if you notice, they have virtually no funding on this project so far. They're 42 million in deficit. I would suggest that we simply look into, no commitments, no nothing, simply look into partnering with the city in what goes on that landfill, as far as fields, as far as recreation, as far as any of that stuff.
Let me be clear. The flex, we're talking about the landfill, not the flex park. We're talking
Not
about the
landfill.
landfill.
Yes, we're talking
That they had
about
been
the
talking
landfill.
about was going to be parks, and that was going to be
Yes.
fields, and,
The flex park, again, we tried to preach to the city officials from day one to take a holistic approach to that island and not bounce all over the place. And unfortunately, like you all know, an advisory board
advises.
And that's all we can do. And we've done it every single meeting. If you look at the minutes for 5 years now, I guarantee you holistic approach has been in every meeting. And they continue to bounce around. And it's extremely frustrating. There's not really anything as an advisory board we can do about it other than continue to advise. And at everything that is put in front of us, we dissect, we give our input, we create a resolution, and we send it to the city of Miami. And they can throw it in the garbage or act on it.
May I say this? I remember, to try to alleviate your frustration, even though you're right about them not following the fact of the matter is in your 4 or 5 years you've been on this thing, nothing has happened. I've learned a long time ago in everything, business and politics, is not so much important what happened, but what did not happen.
Right.
And we've, of course, had the close call with Ultra, and you and I, just as I was sworn in, went to one of these meetings, and when I don't believe it's the same people that we're going to do the flex park, because that's a new word.
Different
flex
people.
park, which is concrete. We just keep defining parks. As you recall that's not the same group. That was another consultant.
Different group.
So we have at least 2 or 3 other, quote, consultants that were paid to do this, right? I mean,
multiple.
So, don't feel frustrated because we're almost on the bottom of the ninth. We don't want you to step out. But here's what I was going to. Yeah. I feel personally that I haven't done enough. I really I feel bad that I haven't been following up, and I just wonder. We're not advisory. I mean, obviously, we have no jurisdiction over City of Miami, but I think we need to bring the weight of our elected officials, us, into this now.
100%.
I spoke to the manager that we have a critical election Tuesday in the city of Miami. They're trying to figure out what to do with themselves and police and all of that. Now, we need to make this a priority. And you've done a lot of good work. I've been there. It's frustrating, but you need help from us, I think.
Yeah, you know, the way they look at it, council member, is you almost feel like, you know, they created this board. They did.
Yes.
Nobody asked for it.
Right.
They created this board. And now, and there, let me tell you something, there is a ton of really, really smart people on this board.
Right.
You know, from Durham, from all, you know, environmental agencies, from, you know, former Mayor Rasco is the chair of this committee. The makeup of the board is really good. And the frustrating thing is the seemingly lack of transparency on the part of the city in getting us the information in a timely manner to be able to at least know a little bit about what we're going to talk about that night. And then just listening and taking into consideration what we have to say. And the more I go there, the more I realize it's just, I don't know if it'll ever happen. And I want to believe if there wasn't this board, it would be absolute chaos out there right now.
Yes.
Because we have been able to put a lot of pressure on them. And listen, I was the mayor when the city of Miami passed the Virginia Key Master Plan. I participated in all the meetings with both the county and the city. I'm not against anything that's in that master plan. And I've tried to explain that to them. But nobody there was there when the master plan was passed. So it's difficult to give them any kind of historic perspective of why there's no housing on the landfill and why there's no, you know, boat ramp and these other things that keep getting stuck in there. And for everybody who ever questions you all for how you may or may not spend money, go over there. It's unbelievable. I mean, they're trying now to have a no bid, you know, they're having a bid on a massive project. And it's in the master plan. And I think it'll be, you know, beautiful, but why waive the bidding process? Why? You know, why? You know exactly. Yeah, I know why. I just want to say it in the mic. But it just doesn't make any sense. And that's the real frustrating part. And I think they have I don't know if it's a $2 or $3 million limit where they don't have to go to bid or something like that. And just a quick example, they're building bathrooms on the North Point, which if any of you haven't been out there, it's spectacular. It's great. They're building bathrooms and a lifeguard rest station. It's about I don't know, 2,000 square foot total. $2 million is their budget. $1,000 a square foot.
Gold-plated toilets.
I mean, come on. And they're 50 yards or 100 yards from the sewer treatment plant, and they're putting a septic tank in.
While we're converting from septic to sewer.
100 feet from the
whole county.
Shoreline. You know, it's really, really frustrating, but it's definitely important, I think, because it keeps those concerns, and at least there's, record, where, the advisory board told you to do this and you did this, but from that perspective, I think you have to keep a real eye on the process and get engaged in the process with their city, with their manager, and with their, and if you know anybody over there, it always helps. And just be more proactive with what's happening there, since, because now we have the county, with the Causeway thing, we have the city of Miami. I mean, unless we're prepared to build our own bridge, where are we going to be here, in 20 years? Right. So it's really important that we stay focused there, because if not, we're going to wake up one day and, God knows what's going to be on that island.
I agree with you. No, look, I know you've been on there a long time. I've been to a bunch of those meetings. I know how frustrating they can be. And we do. We as a body have to, I've been talking to Ken Russell, Commissioner Russell, for a while about trying to work with them on fields, because as we heard from Glenn, it was kind of apropos that Glenn was right before you talking about our need for fields. They've got fields, but they have space, but they need the money for the field. So we've been talking about this at least since I know you were up here. So we've been talking about this, and I agree. We have to reengage and try and make some progress on that front, because otherwise we will see them develop that. That's been the fear, right?
Yeah. And to your point, Mayor, I think there's opportunity there. I think there's real opportunity there from a funding source to get, and unfortunately, that's what it's going to take, because, from a funding source, they're going to be short on a lot of things. But if we get maximum benefit, it's certainly worth looking into.
Absolutely. At least having the conversations.
Did we put a plan together, Buzz, and with an estimate, and then approach them rather than just talk about it? In other words, say, hey, we're talking about, you have a landfill site, which you say, listen, we can go ahead and take an area of whatever, 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet, create these many fields, et cetera, and we're willing to contribute X amount of dollars, but because of that, we want X amount of preference on so many hours on that field certain days of the week, rather than just talk in generalities.
Well,
you really got to get to a point where they can look at it and say, hey, that makes sense, doesn't make sense, great benefit, doesn't cost us anything. We look at it and say, hey, we get this field, this is what it cost us, and that's cheaper than doing something else.
Right.
It was a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction to go, but I'm not sure it's me that should.
No, it's us. We have to do it. You're right. We have to do it. We have to put together a design and have a plan.
I think just a
rough
preliminary meeting.
Right. No, I'll reach out to the mayor, and I'll reach out to Russell.
Councilmember, some of the commissioners there, and
Mike,
I know some of them.
I'm an optimist, and that's why I wanted to highlight how much you have accomplished, and even though you don't feel it. And we did, in fact, stop Ultra. That there are all kinds of other reasons, but we and I can only speak for me, have been, and hopefully I've spoken to the manager about this, since he also has some background there. We have been acting on the main problem of our community on a crisis basis. We run tactically versus strategically. We run with the Causeway. We run with Ultra.
Point of order.
We disengage, and then we leave you out in the wind. It's been a major flaw in my service. And I'm committed to help you, what I call sustained engagement, because I do believe the elected officials, some of whom I know have some flexibility, and some of the staffers I know some of them, and how absurd it can be for you to even worry about the history about a master plan if the master plan is there. You don't have to give me, I don't have to have a history. This is the document upon which I'm supposed to, in America, govern. So they're off into another, but I think we can help you more with the elected officials, and if we ought to really strategically, particularly after November 2nd, that we'll know to do a push.
Yeah, because I
Because
think
it's otherwise, then next month will be something
Well,
else.
And I think there's a real opportunity, because it's a quid pro quo. I mean, they have something that we would love.
Space.
And if we could find something they would love.
Money. It's not a complicated equation.
yeah,
I mean, it's a
no,
very
it really
simple
is.
equation. It's been the same equation for the past, we've been talking about it for 15 years about fields. I mean, we've been
as
complaining.
long
Ever
as
since they started threatening to take away Crandon from us, we've been talking.
As long as.
I'm
as
all
long
about, let's do
as-
something. Let's
as
get a
long
plan
as
together.
we have- as long as
Sorry.
we have, guarantees and
Of course.
usage and, what does and doesn't go out there.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great partnership.
Councilmember McCormick?
First, thank you very much for everything you do to represent us on this board. And I would echo Councilmember Laredo that I think, as frustrated as you feel, I think you've done really good work to this point. So thank you. My question actually isn't for Buzz, but for Frank. To this idea that Ed has about having an actual plan together to go and sort of make an offer, I feel like a lot of that work's been done. I remember with the boat show settlement agreement, I thought, was that when you had really put together a lot of the nuts and bolts?
Yeah, we spent, you know this, I think. We spent 2 years with Mayor Regalado, with Danny Alfonso.
Oh, yeah.
Really actively engaged. They delegated everything to Ken Russell ultimately. We did do this. We put a plan together that included the field on the landfill. It was lumped in with a comprehensive kind of approach, an interlocal approach that covered all of Virginia Key. It died on the city commission dais in a 2-2 vote.
Right. Well, why don't let's resurrect it. Let's look
But
at
the-
it.
yeah,
then
the
we'll
field-
think.
the
'Cause
field
Ken's still
part-
there. Ken, I will tell you, Ken and I have had conversations. We've talked about the composting, right? We've talked about that with Ken over there. We've talked about fields over there, just by the North Point. There's some area that could be used for fields. So let's I think that's our next step. So great, if we've got that, let's bring it out, dust it off, and let's get moving.
And I think we can't forget that Steve also has relationships over there on the staff side that I think would be very helpful with what they need. So,
yeah, let's do it.
What's happening at the Seaquarium? Any idea about what they're going to do there? Big hotel?
County.
Yeah.
County. That's the county.
That's county?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, if you saw the minutes from the approval of the new operator, they spinned it into that they're more friendly
Right.
towards the animals versus.
They beat them less.
Yes. But what I wanted to ask you just a personal question.
Joke, I'm not saying that they beat.
Why do you wait until why don't you call us? I don't understand where the communication.
Oh, we've been talking.
Yeah, I mean, I
thought everything was.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have, and maybe to a fault, I've commuted more frustration than actual, plans, because nothing until last meeting has come up that was not in the master plan. So if you are familiar at all with the master plan, I wouldn't have been sharing anything revolutionary.
Okay.
The reason that I wanted to come before you tonight is because our last meeting, this appeared. Because they've been, whatever you do environmentally to prepare the landfill, they've been doing that.
Years.
And it's capped now. So they're ready to move on that. And when I saw this, real estate company that is going to, advise them at, I'm not sure how much they're getting. We're not privy to that, but they're not doing it for free. And when they're looking into the things they're looking into, they don't fit into the master plan. So that's why I contacted the mayor and told him, I need to come before you guys, because as of now, we've only discussed, why are you paying so much? Not that you can't do it, but why don't you do it a different way? Whether it's building something as simple as building a seawall in Jimbo's Lagoon. We had a guy 30 years with Durham said, you could build a living shoreline that would do exactly the same thing as a seawall is doing for a third the cost. And they went ahead and did the seawall. A seawall where, mind you, we're trying to outlaw motorized vessels in the lagoon. So what do you need a seawall for? It's mind-boggling, to try to get them to, and they listen. I think they hear us. They're just not listening to us. That's what really
we have to reconnect, and we have to make sure.
Yeah, I would, and I strongly suggest that you reconnect with them, whether it's through the manager or the mayor or any of the council, and just have a sit down and say, listen, you got this landfill out there that you're ready to develop. We need more playing fields for our kids. You need money to build the landfill, or to build the fields. Let's work together. And I think there can be some progress made.
Mr. Mayor, I know our main role under the charter is to set policy, and I'm not into there's consensus. I like to make a formal motion that we ask our village manager to look at this whole area of Virginia Key, the road. We're doing progress on other areas with the county, particularly with police enforcement. A strategic plan, not a study and not a consultant, maybe some talking points, action plan for us to help you actually do things. Because it should really be a top priority for 2022, because we're going to be overwhelmed with lobbyists, and all that stuff that we know goes on. And we're pretty damn good tactically. We fight them off, and then we lick our wounds, and then we forget,
So what's your motion
to ask the manager to come back to us with a plan to better relations with the county and the city as it relates to all of the subjects that have related to those areas that are important to us, that are not in our jurisdiction but are important. That is City of Miami, what he's talking about, county.
Specific projects or just?
No, to give us a plan. What can we do to help?
Specific.
Right.
Right, that's his job, to tell us. You pick up the phone and call John Smith. Okay, to an actual, not a study, but how to impact, use the resources that you have, 7 people here with different contact, to help.
Hey, Steve, I'll be happy to.
Yeah, on a
meet you
sustained
one day
nature
at
so
the
that we
office
don't find this every time.
Bring you up to speed on everything that's going on. But I think it's critical now that everything is beginning the permitting phase, beginning the fund.
I was about to say,
a lot of these projects are already fully funded.
Right. I think
they're going to get done.
I think the issue, I'd like to make a friendly amendment and have an action plan on this specific issue. Because I think globally, I think the better relationship is going out to have lunch with an old friend you may have on the county commission. It's reaching out to Ken Russell, say, hey, we got to sit down about the fields. It's talking to the different electeds over there, or the people that Steve or Chad or somebody knows on staff, or attorneys. But I think we need an action plan on this specific issue. I would have the manager come back to us with a specific plan of action, what he thinks in terms of design, what's that?
On Virginia Key.
On Virginia Key, correct. That specific issue should be the action items that we have to move forward on that specific item. I think we can do the same thing for the Rickenbacker, but we started that. Mr. Manager?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I'm quite familiar with these projects. In fact, this spreadsheet looks very familiar. And I felt your pain for a while, Buzz.
Yeah.
More than just 6 months in this chair. Yes, but taking this step to starting to talk about that additional item, I think you mentioned D, it's kind of going above and beyond the intent of the field. I'm actually texting members of the city of Miami right now. I want to step back. It's not capped yet. The design is not done yet.
It's early next year, right?
But it isn't capped, you're correct, but it will be, I believe, by the end of the year or shortly in the first quarter of
2024. I think it's targeted for 2024.
2024 now?
Yeah, the county still has not, but let me go, and I'll tell you where I want to go with this one. This is something the county started in 2013. We still haven't gotten this done. They're still in the design. The RFP process is going to take 6 months, construction probably 18 months. But the point that we need to be involved with the city right now for design is exactly on point, because they don't have a plan. That's why they're doing this study with CBRNE, because they don't know what to do with this thing. And so, so I would ask, is the question to work with them on the athletic fields and park, or is it to work with them in the entire Virginia Key master plan?
I would start with the lake fields and parks.
I think park, fields, well, go ahead.
Well, the only, I believe they do have a plan. And I believe that plan is the master plan.
Right.
Because in the master plan,
there's fields, there's all sorts
it's
of stuff.
specific. It shows the fields, it shows the parking lots, it shows the bathrooms, shows the campground, shows everything.
Doesn't it show dorms though, which would be?
No, that was in one that ultimately got removed. But it doesn't show restaurants, it doesn't show dorms, it doesn't show all these other things they're now engaging someone to look into. So I believe, and the time I've sat up there, I look at that plan as in a holistic approach, that what's in the plan is the plan.
In the master plan.
In the master plan is their plan. And if they deviate from that plan, I'm not talking about where they place a field, but if that field becomes a stadium, that's a deviation from the plan.
Yeah,
and it still has a field, it just has 10,000 seats around it. So, and that's the argument we get. Oh, we're not taking the field away. But, so I think from an engagement standpoint, it's important that because we have time, but the clock is running, we need to get into that process now so they know that we will be a willing participant and a player in this. And, we want what's best because at the end of the day, you can't approach it like it's going to be ours. No. It has to be approached as, listen, this is yours. Like similar arrangement as St. Agnes. We take care of St. Agnes, but when they need it, it's theirs.
And I've communicated with Art Noriega that we are interested, and he's confirmed that. We actually did meet with City of Miami in September, although I'm very surprised on that D item because that was not what we discussed. What they did say is that they are many, many years behind. But what it does reiterate is that we have to get back engaged with them
100%.
Because I will tell you what they're looking at, Buzz, right now is master plan. This plan, I believe they have something in between. They don't know what it is yet, but I think they want more capability than that. I believe there was one soccer field, one baseball field, and the rest is a passive park, from my recollection.
No, they
quite
actually have 4 baseball fields.
Yeah. That's right, they had baseball. That's right, they had the baseball circle. That's right,
4 soccer fields, a campground. There's a campground, not for, I believe it's for like scout, tents and things like that. It's not like a Winnebago campground. But, there are things that are, rock solid. What I'm seeing and what I'm fearing is they're looking at that island as a revenue source.
Right.
okay? It's public land, it's parkland.
It's a great location.
Yeah, and, you know, we as a council, you as a council have to make sure that that master plan is not deviated from, in my opinion, anyway. Now, if they want to add more fields, fine. But if they want to add, you know, dorms or any of this stuff, that, because those were in the discussions prior to the adoption of this plan, that stuff was all in there.
Yeah.
And it got removed.
Unfortunately, that also shows a disconnect between their departments. Because I have talked to the Capital Improvements Department, and they don't have enough soil there to even build their restrooms.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't go deep enough. So the fact that they're thinking about building something else is, you know, shows that the two departments aren't talking. I think the point taken, though, is that we need to be engaged, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
And we'll do that. And I think what you'll find, and I don't know whether you did this on purpose, Jocelyn, when working with Jocelyn, who also knows this very well. You suggested next year that we do our meetings on the second Tuesdays instead of a third Tuesday. That will allow us to attend the Virginia Key Advisory Board
And
be a part of this process.
Right, it'll also allow you,
if you did that, thank you very much.
If you feel like it, to attend the commission meetings, because the commission meetings, you know, we meet on the last Tuesday, and they meet on that Thursday.
Right.
So a lot of times we get stuff they're going to vote on that day. And you know, it's very difficult to understand exactly what they're going to be voting on 48 hours later when we're just seeing it for the first time.
Well, Mayor, you know, I got my baptism very early in life on public administration in the city of Miami. So trust me, if you blink, it's too late.
Yeah.
So my purpose on my motion, just to make it a policy decision that this is a priority of this council, leave the details to our manager, but our policy, this is critical. You can start with this particular small project, but we have to follow, in fact, his advice. Don't break it down. Stay with the strategic vision and then attack problems as they come up tactically. But let's just say, you know, because they're going to give you the satisfaction of say, okay, we did this. You're coming back now 3 months later about something else. It's a little bit of how they play. And you do have a master plan. I mean, it's a blessing that you have it.
100%.
So my purpose was to make a general policy clearly in a minute in asking the manager, which is obviously he started, we got to get engaged in a sustained way.
Our second for the motion.
I think your motion is that this is the high priority, right? That's a first motion. I'll second that.
Yes.
And this is the highest priority.
Kaplan, you wanted to say something?
You know, it's 3 years since, and the commission has changed in a way that may not be favorable, but the work that we try to do insofar as land use was concerned was really rooted in the master plan and was, in my opinion, not controversial. What was controversial was what we were trying to accomplish at the time because of Ultra, which was to regulate special events. And they clearly had diminished appetite to deal with that. If we were to stick to the field first and the land use of Virginia Key consistent with the master plan second, that's a great strategy.
That's right. All right.
Yeah. Chad, I have a question. When the city has a master plan, such as Virginia Key, are they bound to follow it?
Typically, no. I mean, it's just like you guys can amend your master
So
plan.
they have to amend it, but there's nothing stops them from amending it. And it's a long, detailed process to amend it, or is it a couple of meetings?
Depends if it was adopted by a resolution or I'm not sure. We can check, but I mean, let's
It
just
depends on
assume.
how much public participation there would be.
So you should just assume 2 meetings. 3 meetings.
So my point is that we say stick with the master plan.
Oh, they
say,
can amend
"Well,
it,
you know
of
what?
course.
We want to do this. Master plan doesn't do that. You amend the master plan. I mean,
No,
who are
it's
we
not.
kidding?
No, there's no question they could do that,
Yeah,
but I
sure.
think the backlash will be,
Right.
because
From
we
us.
get,
No,
no,
not from
from
us.
the
No.
city
They
of
don't
Miami,
Friends of
the
Key Biscayne,
actual
Friends of
residents.
Virginia Key.
There's
We've got a
there's
lot of
actual,
groups.
there's groups
Yeah.
that come to every meeting,
Right.
and they're vocal, they're adamant, they stay engaged, and they're well-informed.
Good.
And believe me, they, I think if they attempt to amend the master plan, depending on what the amendments are, there would be some serious
It depends
repercussions.
how far after they've just been elected, or is the election coming up?
That I don't
It's on
know.
the cycle.
I mean,
Oh,
really.
yeah.
All right, so we've got
And,
the
you know,
motion.
they put,
Buzz,
I
might I-
think it's $25 million in the ground out there in that parking lot. That,
Right.
yeah, that
The boat show
the
and all
master
that.
plan shows is grass. So,
We've been waiting for that flex park to come.
yeah,
for
yeah.
years.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that the only thing not funded is the flex park.
Yeah.
Okay, because they need that
Event space.
place to hold those events that we had 2 weekends ago and et cetera.
To make money.
I don't think there's any urgency to build that flex park.
No, of course not.
Mayor, if I might add, I think they have a very broad view of what the master plan is.
Oh,
It's a,
You know,
it's a fluid view.
It's, well, I don't know if it's fluid. It doesn't change, but it's a broad
Suggestion.
view of what the master plan is telling them to do.
Correct.
Which I think is what Buzz is telling us here.
100%.
And then when new group comes after new group, that broad view becomes even broader.
The reason
But
it's called
luckily, we have
Flex
people
Park,
like Buzz to keep
Yeah.
focusing
No, I mean,
their
it's,
eyes.
like you said, when I mentioned the original one, the stadium, the ball field, well, were there supposed to be there's still ball fields here. We're just going to surround it with,
10,000 seats.
yeah.
And a
small
hotel.
stadium.
And,
So
For the
I
10,000
think
people to stay.
I think it's a great idea that we do get engaged. It certainly can't hurt.
certainly reach out.
I'll do it.
Let them know, listen, we're your neighbor. We want to be, we want to be a part of this, because the success of Virginia Key is critical to us.
Of course it is.
We want that to be, a great place and operate.
100%. We want them, I've been telling them for years, we want them to have a great Virginia Key. We want that to be their
100%.
Central Park because
100%.
it serves everybody. But we don't look forward to hotels and stadiums. and things like that.
No.
Councilmember Corr-
And I'm not for 1 second implying that's what they're going to do.
No, but
Yeah,
when you bring in CBRE, yeah,
right.
go ahead.
Go
It just
Russ.
occurred to me another place to look where some of this work may already be done for you is a few years back when we were talking to the county about possibly developing some of the tennis area into ball fields and how that scheduling would work in terms of joint use and shared responsibilities or defined responsibilities, maybe is a better word. That's all done as well.
But that would be county, right?
No,
county,
but
but
my,
it would be-
I'm
It's the
not,
process. I
the
think.
other things,
process
okay.
and in terms of like actually sitting down and trying to develop a plan, there's one there that you could certainly build off of.
No, and I agree. But Mr. Mayor, I think that right now, the city is going out to select their planner for the field. So I think now's the time to engage. And I've asked Jocelyn, because of her background as well, to be our primary point of contact, but obviously with Todd as our technical lead. So we're ready to follow what Councilman Laredo's recommending.
Okay,
Well, we've got a motion on the table to do it.
thank you.
Great.
it's a motion.
Thanks, Bud.
Gentlemen and ladies,
I'd rather have it.
All those in
thank you
favor?
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks for
you.
what you all do.
Thanks, Buzz.
I know it's not always appreciated, but I know.
It's big money.
Yeah, you do. a great
Imagine
thing.
having to sit next to it, London.
Yeah.
And Buzz, I'll come pick your brain.
Good night.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries.
All right, I'm going to move to untable the ordinance.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
All right,
carries.
so now that we've had a look at Ed's comments,
All right, Ed, we'll go through your comments.
well, is there anything else? I want to be clear. Is there anything else on, other than Ed's comments, which we apparently received in 9:20? I do remember looking at these, but not looking at the numbers at the time. Is there anything else that anybody has an issue with in the ordinance as presented?
Other than what is right here?
Other
and
than
Ed.
these notes
Yeah.
and then the subsequent one, which I'm going to side with Councilmember Laredo. I think I would like to hold off on those, but for now, unless you'll explain them.
Okay, well, we're going to respect Luis's comments and just discuss this tonight. And this another time, since he hasn't had a chance to read the changes or anything else, or we're going to vote tonight.
Can we just get to the end and make the decision? Because you may find that it's
Well, I have no
very
problem.
minor.
Yeah.
Or we may.
I'm just trying
Well,
to.
why don't we
it's an
go
issue.
through, did you incorporate these changes from the Vice Mayor at all into your?
Some of my stuff addresses it, some of it doesn't, some of it's just discussion.
Okay.
Some of it, I don't have no idea what he's asking, so.
Yeah, well,
So we
that
can
goes
ask.
with most of what goes on. All right.
All
So
right.
why don't you explain the points, or if you want to work with Olga on this, you guys do it.
We're discussing,
Basically, we're discussing
London's
all of the
comments.
points that are
Ed
of
London.
concern
Okay.
from Ed London.
So 73,
Let me get 1 second. Let me get there.
You literally just got this. You couldn't have lost it already.
All right, shut up.
That's not even the right agenda.
Yeah, I got the wrong one.
so Ed, while you're doing that, I'm gonna just start. On your number 70, line 73 is on page 4 at the bottom. This is if somebody has a damage to, based on flood, fire, or something on a non-conforming home or structure, you basically can calculate 50% of the value of the entire structure and home together in order to make a replacement, as long as you keep it in the same footprint, same height, whatever's non-conforming has to stay in that situation, can't go anymore. I think your question is at the bottom where it says that from prior to the damage, provided that an application for the building permit has been submitted within 12 months of the date of such damage, unless extended by the building, zoning, and planning director. You're asking why not after the permit, but I think what happens is once you have a flood damage and you need to rebuild, the clock is now ticking, and you have 12 months to submit a building permit. Once you submit the application for the building permit, that's it. You're in. There's no more ticking, and you can go ahead through the permanent process and rebuild. I think what you're saying is worse. You're saying something about once you get a permit, then the clock starts ticking, but it's actually before.
Okay,
Does that clarify it?
fine.
Okay.
We'll eliminate that one.
Yep.
We don't have to eliminate anything. It was just a question from him.
Let's eliminate.
Oh, from his thing? From his list. Okay, that's fine.
Question.
All right, 217, which is on page 8. This is on administrative variances, and we added maximum lot elevation. I'm guessing you're asking why maximum lot elevation. So maximum lot elevation
Hold on,
is 217, page 8.
Okay, I got it.
So maximum lot elevation is on homes in the rear is 30 inches below base flood elevation. So once the project is complete, you never get everything perfect. So the administrative is allowed to allow about 10% fluctuation there. So that's about 3 inches. So if they go out there and do their survey and they're a little bit above the maximum elevation, they're allowed to, they don't have to come in front of council. They can go get administrative variance on that.
Why do we have to have the 30 inches? Why is the elevation below?
Oh, okay. Now
More
you're just
than one
talking
step.
about the, yeah. Well, that's,
Really, because we do give variances for
Yeah.
people. You go check with your neighbors, they say it's fine, then you can raise your back area.
yeah.
So why we have to have people get variances to do that? Why don't we put it into the code? Why are we limiting it?
well, this, I'm sorry, this is in reference to the administrative variances and after the fact. So this is in the event that you've already filled your elevation, your rear zone, and you've,
I'm just talking about,
Wait,
Olga, why should we have the maximum thing be 30 inches below, was BFE?
Yeah.
And now we're trying to get people to build above BFE. So now you're getting somebody to build 2 or 3 feet above
I
BFE,
see.
and you're 2.5 feet below, all of a sudden it's a 4.5 thing. It makes no sense.
So I think the
I mean, we're
intent.
trying to encourage raising things up.
Yeah.
And this seems to be counterproductive.
Well, you're going to actually what's going to be counterproductive is when people raise their floors higher than BFE to use the space under. They're actually going to push down because they're going to want to use the space under. They're not going to go up. But I think the reason, the intent, and Frank, you could help on this because this is old. The intent of that max lot elevation, I guess, is privacy to your neighbors if you're building up higher against your neighbors.
Excuse me, but you can put an outside porch right next to this, outside patio. It's 4 to 6 inches below, so you're there already.
Yeah.
This is only where the pool deck usually is. But you can be up there anyway, so it's not a question of privacy. I mean, we're looking at privacy. A lot of the things we do is say, well, look, the Mackel house is built at basically plus 6 feet or plus 5 feet above sea level. We're saying you got to build a plus 10. Now we're hoping they'll go to 12 or 13 but then the Mackel people are going to say, listen, his first floor is almost my roof. But, you know, we're also saying, I mean,
I don't disagree with you at all.
Those homes will not be here forever.
Yeah.
Because the island is changing.
Frank, can you speak to what the intent was and if it's even viable anymore?
The intent, I think, at the time was there was so much housing stock that was Mackel and rapidly being surrounded by initially spec houses by general contractors after Hurricane Andrew, and then ultimately, you know, the obsolescence took in.
I understand that.
And so this was an effort to moderate what would otherwise be more disproportionality between
But
neighbors.
it's changed. I mean, life.
It has
It's not
changed.
necessary.
There are instances where this still prevails, but fencing and landscaping kind of mitigates that problem. And this is probably an anachronism.
So we can,
That's where I'm coming from.
that's fine. I mean, if you guys want to do that, I think it's a good
So
comment.
I have a question. Where Ed's question is about the variance, right?
No, his is just in
no,
general.
I understand
max,
what his
yeah.
question is, but where we're looking right now on the line,
Yes.
I can't.
It's in
We're looking under
demonstrated
variance.
variance.
So the variance is allowing,
Oh my God, I have to take them off. It feels a lot later to me. I've been up since 5 a.m. Oh my
I need my
goodness
glasses, but
gracious.
not to
I
read.
need to take them off to read. So is there somewhere else we should be looking if we want to change it
I just brought this up
altogether?
at this point because it talks about the
No, I think it makes sense to me.
So you're
And when you look at houses some that were built where the backyard and the pool deck are really elevated, it makes sense to me that when we're looking and talking about elevating streets and essentially wanting to sort of lift up the island, it doesn't make sense to force people to have their pool.
So maximum thing is 6 inches below your first floor level.
floor elevation. Yeah, I'd love my house to have been like that. So right now, from the variance section that you're
I don't care what
applying,
you-
you're
I
fine
just-
with
I
that.
just
But
care about the
max lot elevation, we're going to look at
That's what I'm saying.
revamping. And you're okay with that too? It's
I'm
not
okay
an
with
issue.
that.
That's for you lawyers to figure out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
good. No, next.
All right.
So wait, what did we just do? Did we just drop max?
on,
No, we're going to change the definition of
Max lot elevation.
Yeah,
Okay,
Chad,
so
you
that's
know
not
what-
just like a passing thing.
No,
folks.
it's a big
I
decision.
It's a big decision.
hold on, guys. Is that a definition?
Yes,
Okay, we cannot do that right now. That will have to go through referendum.
goes to referendum.
But that won't be anything that we'll pass tonight because we can't do that tonight.
Well, sorry, wouldn't this change
Is it a
constitute on
definition?
line number 385, which is referencing maximum lot elevation?
Is it a definition?
No.
I don't know.
Lot elevation?
I don't know that
I
it's a
don't think so.
definition.
I don't think so.
It's not? Okay, it's in the code? Then we can change it there on
I
385.
think,
what?
that would, regardless, we'll check, but
I think it
what
could be changed
what
under
Olga was
385.
maybe trying to get to is really. if you
Oh,
go
and I have
page-
to, I'm sorry,
page
one
19.
more thing. I never closed public comments. I tabled without, is there anybody signed up to speak? Pete? We're going to close.
No, Mr. Mayor, nobody signed up to speak.
All right, close public comments.
I think what the vice mayor was looking really at is on page 19 at the bottom,
Yeah.
in line 385, is where
Max lot elevation drainage.
that's,
Yes. Does it have the 30 inches on there?
it breaks it down by zone, right?
Front
So
zone,
in the
rear zone,
front
water
zone,
Rear zone is 2.5, it's in the next page, it's 396.
B,
Anyway. That's the
396
thing. I
B.
think you guys come back with something.
Yeah, we can change that.
All right, so we're not touching that tonight.
We want to bring that 6 inches below the
First floor elevation.
First floor, even knowing that people are raising their first floor even higher. You want to bring.
What we're trying to get them to do.
Oh, because if they raise their
Okay.
first floor, it's still just 6 inches.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what, are you going to have a 12-foot
We
wall
still got
next
a
to your
35
neighbor?
foot height.
Well, you can't, your max on your height, right?
No, if you're doing the first floor, well, we'll get there. Let's get there, and I'll tell you when that comes
We
up.
do have a definition of maximum lot elevation.
And what does it say?
It doesn't say much, but we have one. It says the maximum height of lot filled as established by this chapter.
Okay, so we can change it here, and we're fine.
Yeah.
The
We can
location.
change the numeric number.
All right, 284.
284. Where is 284?
Why was it to 2 lots? This is, if our
Yeah.
goal was to limit density, 2 lot maximum was passed by envious council members against the wealthy.
So there's a
This is
couple.
exactly what happened, if you remember correctly.
284.
Okay, you weren't around.
It's not just envy. It was really about Taj Mahals.
Well, we're talking, first of all, we want to limit density, limit the number
It's
of
true.
people.
That's true.
Okay? So if you get somebody to take 5 lots, you've already got 4 families that aren't going to be.
That's true, but
Yeah.
the driver also included the resulting improvement would look like Los
Well, you know what?
Alamos.
We have,
nuclear
somehow, we
missile
have one
plant.
house with 5 lots.
Oh,
And it's
where?
and nobody ever complains about these.
Which
things.
one? Master Point?
No, on the end of, I guess not Harbor, but what's it?
I don't
Cape
know. That's why I
Florida?
asked the
The guys
question.
had the 5 lots together. I can't think of the guy from the music thing. You don't know him.
The guy from the music
Yeah.
thing.
He brought us up into Pines Canal, and it's a big thing.
Stone house. We
Oh, yeah.
No, so I mean, so they put 5 lots together. And you know what? It didn't bother anybody. So why are you going to limit it to 2 lots? We want to limit density. The fewer lots we have, the less people we have. And we're talking about too dense. This is what you want to do.
Well, I don't.
So why have a limit?
The
I mean,
counter-
you have a limit of the market. You have a limit of the market being that somebody who wants to spend that kind of money to acquire stuff doesn't want to acquire it in the middle of a block of all Mackel houses. It just doesn't work.
But
It's a real estate type
there's a counter, it's, if it happens in one place, at the end of a peninsula, and it's not just that, there's a few others.
It's
that
another
are-
house. I'm just mentioning.
But there might be 3 or 4.
Yeah.
If there were 30,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Community
that's an issue.
character.
So we might have 60 less families.
No, but I think from a community aspect, I think there's something very nice to have more houses with different families in it that people are walking in the front. I think that when you build these big houses that end up putting walls up, it
They're
becomes
going to
this
start walking in
long.
front when you put sidewalks out.
I love
Yeah.
Your comment.
Yeah.
We already
They're
have
not putting the sidewalks out.
this abundance.
I mean, if we want to go to 3 or something,
You want
that's
to
fine.
encourage
But
people to walk the
like the
sidewalks and
I
streetlights
think
up.
the discussion, I remember it, was partly because when you combine the lots, you also get a lot of FAR and you have these really, really large homes. And that was the trend at the time. There was a lot of people acquiring lots, and that's why it was put in there.
you start to get, tennis courts in there next to
Start to
people.
block
And, you know,
views.
this speaks
There's no light and break up. and
I don't know
all
if Frank is coming from that angle on you, but it speaks to, I'm not an architect or expert. It speaks to our character, right? And so I disagree with Mr. London.
Yeah, but listen, you can.
You can't convince me.
But you're not even
So I'm very
listening, so how
sad.
can you?
I think what we have
But
now
you
is
don't know what I'm
terrible.
talking- you don't know what I'm going to tell you. You can list, you can limit the FAR as the lots go up. In other words,
Yeah.
if the FAR is 0.47
Well,
for
we
one
did do
lot,
that.
for 2 lots, maybe it's going to be 0.35. For 3 lots,
All of that is wonderful, but my experience and some of the money that is coming into this island, and I don't want to get into that subject.
so you're envious too.
So I'm not going to get into that subject. This opens up a whole area of folks that I don't want here,
Okay.
or the type of the building. I mean, not people.
I'm more worried about the character of the street.
I'm not.
Okay, so I agree with the original.
Brett doesn't like people coming here? Is that what I'm getting?
No,
No,
that's
Brett wants
I-
more people
Yeah,
here.
more
He
people
wants them all
welfare.
rubbing elbows
Right.
on the sidewalks that Ed's gonna put in.
Okay.
So
Let's
anyway,
go to the next
I don't know how
one.
the rest of you feel about that, but just, we come back and say, Brett, that if you have 2 lots, you have an FAR of something, 3 lots, lower FAR.
You wanna make
So you
it
don't
a-
have the gigantic houses, and they're proportionate to the land you have.
Can we get a poll from the council? What do you guys?
I don't.
Can we get a vote? A
It's the
quick vote?
aesthetic, it's the community character and the aesthetics. We do
community
shrinking FAR
Well, we
on
shouldn't
the
build
2
anything but
lot.
Mackel houses. This was a Mackel Island. We're destroying the community character, aren't we? You did. You don't have a Macklin house.
Yeah, I don't.
All
That's
right.
right.
So-
I tried to keep it, but I
So,
couldn't.
I mean, so we've all just, that's
So
bullshit.
there's
All right, make a motion. Make a motion.
What's it?
Make a
He
motion.
knows it's lost already.
Because otherwise, we're just going to
My
go on and
motion
on.
is that, I guess Olga or
Why
whoever
putting Olga on
will
this?
come back with a proposal for multiple lots by reducing the FAR so we comply with Councilman Laredo's fear of large homes. Because that will basically reduce the size. In fact,
Oh, okay.
there will be less homes, there will be less building if you do that than if you don't do that. Because if you got 0.47, you got 3 houses, you have basically almost 50% covered.
So stipulated. The objection isn't that. The objection is having a vibrant, active community and streetscape that includes lots of
Character.
front doors and lots of families,
Neighborliness.
as opposed to an enclave, from somewhere like a place that we wouldn't want to live.
Thank you so much.
So let's
for
go
speaking more
ahead. Is there a
clearly than I
second?
do.
I second the motion.
All right, let's go for, do you want to do roll
Roll
call?
call vote.
Mayor Davy?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
No.
Councilmember Laredo?
No.
Vice Mayor London?
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick?
No.
Councilmember Moss?
No.
Councilmember Segurola?
Yes.
Fails.
Motion fails.
Okay. Next item is one that's on my list as well, the one on the other list. So you were 100% correct.
It's 320?
Yeah, so this one is on the bonus chart on page 15, number 1. We do have a section in there that says elevation of the porches, the front porches. The elevation shall not exceed the base flood elevation, which is in contradiction of raising the floors. We would like to remove that.
So I move it.
Second.
All those
I
in
move the
favor?
amendment.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so let's go to 320.
334.
334 explain.
320.
All right, the maximum exterior wall height may be increased 6 inches for, okay. So why limit the BFE at 4 feet? That's actually 335. So we can jump down to 335 on this one. So the maximum elevation of the lowest finished floor shall be base flood elevation plus 4 feet. So we put a maximum. We don't have to put a maximum. We debated this back and forth a lot. I did speak to a couple other architects that work in Key Biscayne. Deborah De Leon, she sent me a house that they're working on right now where they're actually parking under the house. They're using the section under the house. She's 2.5 feet above base flood elevation. I was worried 4 feet may not be enough. Talked to Tom Weber as well. He thinks he can get under there plenty under 4. Now, we can say naturally, we're not going to change the height right now because that I think has to be done by a referendum. And the height is actually 35 feet, which is pretty. I've never gotten a house that high, and most of the architects I talk to don't get up to 35 feet. But naturally, as you raise up, your ceilings are going to compress, right? So you can only go so high until you just call it quits, right? So that is a possibility. And some people maybe do a 1-story and try to push it up as high as they can. So I just think that we have to be a little bit careful of the character that we want to stay at. I think 4 feet can get us enough to use the underside, park in there. If it's not correct, we can always tweak it, add another foot later. If you guys feel comfortable with not having any maximum, just allow people to go up as high as they want and just naturally decide, how high their own ceilings are, we could do it that way as well. It probably won't be any higher than 4 feet in the end, but you're keeping it a little bit open. You don't have so much control.
A little history on this. I brought this up about 2013. Yeah. And I had Tom Weber and Deborah De Leon and Judd. Oh, no, we can't do this. And I said, listen, we have the elevation, we have the flood, blah, blah, blah. You got to do this because flooding criterion, you're talking about all this stuff. No, it won't look good. So as a result, you couldn't build over 10 feet. Also, you get a 10% penalty for going over 10 feet. Yeah. And now what's going to happen? BF will be 11. All these people who build will be below, and they're going to pay through the nose for federal flood insurance. Yeah. So if somebody wants to do the correct thing and raise it, yes, they're going to have to make their houses lower and different floors. But you know what? It's better for everything.
What's your ask?
Oh, my ask is take off.
Not to have a maximum.
Have none. Take it out.
You still have a height limitation overall.
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't change that.
Before we vote on that,
I think.
I just want, oh, go ahead,
I was
Chad.
just going to say, to bring back the focus, that the code currently says that your lowest finished floor is BFE,
Mhm.
right? And the purpose for that was because
You
at
have
the
to.
time, because at the time, people were enclosing the areas below the understory, and there was a lot of issues with that with FEMA. That was and that's why at the time in 2010 or whenever, they set your lowest floor elevation at BFE.
But
Now
yeah,
we're moving away from it.
But,
in
but
this
under
ordinance.
national flood, under FEMA, you can't be below BFE to build.
No. I'm saying that you couldn't go any higher. You had to set it at BFE.
But basically, when it came down to the discussion, Steve was here, not you at the time, the rules were all was based on how it's going to look. The architects were afraid the houses wouldn't be attractive if you raise them. I mean, my architect dropped out of the thing when I had to raise my house. He said, forget it. I won't even do it. So then they wanted to say, okay, we're not going to change it. And that's where it is.
It was also, it was also building these phony rooms underneath. But now we have an understory right
Yeah.
now.
Correct. So now
You were on the council at the time. You remember the discussion.
Yeah.
So now we're eliminating it, and the only question is like what you're saying. We're putting a cap that you can only go 4 feet above. And
No,
you're-
I'm saying eliminate that. I'm
Yeah.
saying let them do what they want. You
Go
still
as high
got the
as you want.
35 feet or 22
right.
foot 8
Eliminate the 4
when you're
feet and
being-
let them just go up
Yeah,
and
but
down
they-
within the
that's all.
35.
Yeah, so I wear 2 hats or 3 hats maybe, but my architect hat says, don't put any regulations on me. I'm going to design you something beautiful. My community hat is I'm thinking of the neighbor right next door and just want to make sure that they feel comfortable, that there is some regulation there, that they know what they're going to get. They know it's not going to be a surprise. So I'm balancing, and then I have the council hat, right? So I'm trying to balance all these.
But you got one
these
more
there.
thing to think about. Every time you raise this house to the first floor, the steps, you still only go up.
Yeah, the steps are
maximum
going all the
7
way up and everything.
So obviously,
Yeah.
the fact that the setback, you can't raise it that much.
Well, you can because you can put the steps in the center and go up.
That's what I'm trying to,
Yeah.
that's one of the things, putting in the house, but we'll get
Yeah.
that to next. So at this point in time, I'd make a motion
What-
that there's no limit.
Before we go there, and Allison, if you can wait 1 second, just want to bring this to light. If you go up to line 317, which is 2B, we added this in because I think we spoke about this in the workshop, and people said, well, if we allow people to raise the floor, they need to raise up the height a bit because there's going to be a compression in the ceiling, and it's already somewhat tight. So what we put in here was a line called that says the maximum exterior wall height may increase 6 inches for every 1 foot that the lowest floor is above base flood elevation, not to exceed 24.5 feet. So basically what it's doing is that the walls that are at the setback lines are, if you go up 2 feet, you're allowed to increase that wall, that wall, or what we call the tie beam. We're allowed to bring that up 1 foot if you go up 2 feet. That way it just allows easier so people can, because in these tight lots, it's hard to start pushing in so far
So basically,
when you're going up.
The present one was 8 inches, correct? Present code.
The present code is 22.5 feet.
But isn't there a thing, if you bring it in, every foot you
Every
bring it in,
12 to 8,
you go up
yes.
8 inches?
Yes.
Now you're saying if you bring it in a foot, you go up 6 inches.
No, what I'm
it's not a
saying is that the 22.5, that line at the corner, if you go up 4 feet, you can bring that up 2 feet, and then the 8 by 12 starts.
Okay.
And the reason why we brought this in is that we feel we don't want to deter people from building higher, because then they realize I got to push my wall in 3 feet in order to go up higher. I'm going to lose so much square footage on a 7,500 square foot. I'm going to push down now so I can go back out, and it's going to be this play all the time.
Sure.
So but it doesn't give them 1 for 1. It only gives them 1 to
I understand
50%.
that.
So that way we control it. And if we if we remove the maximum, we're still maximizing that one at 24.5 feet.
How did you get to 317? It's not on his
No,
notes.
Sorry,
we're just discussing something.
It just pertains to this votes. I think so.
So my
Just wanna let
motion
you know.
is that removes the plus 4 BFE.
Can I?
Allison, go ahead.
Say that removing the +4, and I'm not opposed to it. I think the trend here is going to be us just going up and up, including the streets. But the one thing I did hear Brett say is that we don't yet really build to the max height. And clearly, I mean, I'm not an architect, but it sounds to me like by removing this, we will be.
Excuse me, you
Say that again?
The
No,
max height, the 22.8?
No,
No.
the 30.
35.
Oh, the 35 feet she's
Yeah.
talking about.
But the main thing is the tie beam.
Yeah, the 35, it's really the tie beam.
We're 22.
Do you think we'll start going there if we go up?
We are hitting the tie beams now at 22.5, and if we go up to 24.5, we will hit the 24.5 anyways. No matter what, if we take away the maximum or not, people are going to
But
get
do
into
you,
that.
my question is, do you think we'll start hitting the 35 then?
Oh,
I don't think so. And if they do, it becomes like, we're allowed to do it anyway. So
But it's only,
that 35 does not change. It's still at the BFE.
Seconding the motion.
So Brett, I'm against the motion because I like your of your three hats. I like the community hat.
Okay.
and I don't have one.
I try hard.
It's all yours.
No, I think that and also I have a cultural litmus test that I want to make sure the rules are clear and, anything that stays gray.
So we have the motion on
one
the floor.
thing that I do want to just say from the cultural aspect, the higher we go, we definitely are losing things. Like I know I've said this up here before years ago that one of my favorite things to do in my old house was to stand at my kitchen table and fold laundry because I would look right out on Glenridge and I saw the whole world going by. And sometimes I could run out and talk to somebody, and it was definitely a connection when you're lower. But I think that with the water coming, that ship has probably sailed.
Yes. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any other discussion on this? Let's do a roll call.
As this would increase the wall height 2 feet.
2 feet maximum. Doesn't matter if you go up 8 feet, you're still only capped at that 2 feet maximum.
Right. As opposed to if this was removed, there is a point at which, despite design flexibility, but it's hard to visualize what that would be.
Yeah.
Your
At 22.5 feet is tight.
Yeah, your lowest finished floor now can go up and down within, the maximum height, 35 feet. I mean, you're still capped, but you're
Can't go 35 feet.
I understand that, but this is
22 feet.
affecting your lowest finished floor.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what it's affecting.
See, my problem is that, like in my house, for example, 22.5 feet at BFE, my first floor has 8'6" ceilings. My second floor has 8' ceilings because I have to have space to run all the ducts underneath the concrete slab, and it starts to add up. So if you're going to say like, oh, build 4 feet higher, how am I going to do the ceilings? My ceiling's going to be 6 feet. So that's why I said we got to be allowed to push up a little bit on the sides, and then if you want to keep going higher, then you have to start moving the walls in. But give a little bit of relief on the small lots, yeah.
Any other?
One last comment. The other reason that I am going to support this and that I think it's important for people to hear is that this is really looking, and Ed mentioned it earlier, looking out for people and their flood insurance rates. Because once these houses are built and BFE keeps increasing, if we give people the option of going higher now, they're going to preserve their...
Exactly.
And isn't what you have proposed here, Moss, the same decision we made in that case that I originally objected to, or the bringing in?
No.
Tom Weber when he was here with that wonderful lady?
No.
Yeah, so that pitch, but it's a little bit different, but yeah.
But sort of the same.
It would raise that up a little bit if
Okay.
you raise the floor, yeah. That would help.
So this is what you propose.
Okay.
Let's
Councilmember
call it.
Laredo.
What's that?
On the motion.
And his motion, no.
Definitely no, since I made it.
Okay. Vice Mayor Linden?
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
No.
Councilmember Segurola?
Yes.
Mayor Davy?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
No.
Motion passes.
Getting stuff done. I like it.
Next item.
All right, so 334, you said explain, but that's what we just talked about.
Yeah,
So I think we can go ahead and skip that one. So let's go to 363.
363.
363 is understory ground elevation. So you wanted to put concrete. I believe you wanted to put concrete.
So that was.
Does it affect
That
wall
was
height?
365.
Yeah, I don't know what.
360, I have 4 plus 1, plus 8 equals effect wall height, trying to encourage, not discourage. That was my comment.
I didn't know what. Yeah, that one I didn't.
Now I
was
gotta remember
unclear.
what I was.
Well,
actually-
it's okay. It was a wonderful comment.
So let's go to
Beautiful. We're gonna put it
365.
on
I read the damn thing at least.
We're going to inscribe it on the wall here.
Constructed no lower than 1 foot than above the ground road. 1 portion of the story or another. Okay, all right, with it. Okay, so basically, That's on 363.
This goes back to your 4-foot comment, and yeah, that's why I think you have 4 plus 1 plus.
Yeah, I think you were talking about the 335 there, with the 4-foot
Is
maximum.
it moot then at this point?
Hold on. I'll just strike on material, minimum elevation. Strike around, let's show you, strike no
Yeah,
longer
because BFE is 1 plus 4 is 5 feet.
They're not- Okay, so now, the question is, why, we talked about, we want to keep the, okay, this goes back, exactly, we're talking about drainage, we're talking about keeping water on the property. So what you're doing, you're elevating this thing, what's going to happen? Obviously, the water's going to flow the other way, which is actually, we don't want to happen. We're going to have pervious soil here, so everything, pretty much everything, be pervious, so the water would go down. So you don't want to me, is usually you figure your detention, retention sites by taking 100% of impervious and only 20% of pervious to determine the water runoff before you figure the quantity you have to excavate in cubic feet to create a detention or retention site, correct? So therefore, why do you want to elevate it? Why can't it be at the crown of the road? Why is
Oh, you're talking about the road with coming up 1 foot?
Yeah.
Because what we're thinking is in the future, we're going to start raising streets. So we don't want the water going back in. So we want to allow people to start raising up a little bit. Like, for instance, you saw the flooding on Friday. It was incredible, right?
I understand what you're saying.
That would all come
So
through.
the question is, they should have an option. They can build it 1 foot above, or they can present another plan to the building department to show that they'll take care of the flooding, such as a dry well. So, different things.
Yeah, I think what's maybe where, let's say a spec builder comes in, it's like, it's cheaper, I don't have to bring fill, it should go straight down through there, they sell it to somebody else, flood comes in and they're complaining, oh my God, my barbecue's flooded, my pool's flooded, and it's like, well, that's what the guy sold you, right?
Ed, what I don't understand is why you want to, just philosophically now, it's not, all joking aside, it's not, you just want to sort of, don't set straight rules. I mean, it's a small
Yes, I want
community.
to set straight
No, you
rules.
want to delegate. He should also have the option to go to the staff to come up with a beautiful.
Because everything is not the same when you construct.
Well,
everything's not the same.
And
There's a number of different ways of to achieve the same goal. And our goal is to retain water as much as
Then
possible.
what's the point of this exercise then?
What do you mean
Let's
the
just
point?
have one pager said everybody goes to staff and let them decide. No, I mean.
Just read the thing and you'll understand.
I
where
have
I'm
read
coming
the
from. You haven't read
thing.
the thing, because else you wouldn't ask that question.
Oh, sorry.
Guys, come on.
Well, this is one that was an item that we met with Roland about. We have future plans to deal with stormwater. That was we wanted it higher, but it was like, okay, but we got to keep it low. And so 1 foot was kind of where we ended up in there. And even Roland's not
What you
happy with
said,
1 foot. He wanted it
Moss,
higher.
is exactly my point, that we're now, again, at the 11th hour, it's nobody's fault. These things, I praise it as a result of a lot of input.
Yeah.
And balancing all of these things, and so it's just our ability to, not, okay, we'll make this rule, but here are the 17 exceptions. I don't believe in that philosophically. And I have read it, Ed, and I didn't.
Didn't you get
Well,
this?
I'm just making, no, I didn't get this, but I mean, I have read this document, which is I made a motion to accept because it was a result of a lot of work and a lot of input. And, I don't know why we didn't get this before, but it's just kind of, we're making an exception in our time to consider it. This is second reading.
Yeah.
First reading, I wanted to bring stuff up, and they said, wait to second reading.
All right.
So that's why it's this time.
But I mean, I thank you for the confidence in it, but I think this is a necessary process to go through. We have to kind of boil out some of the policy stuff. So I think this is good. I think this progress is good. We vote no, yes, and we move on, on what we want to do. And we can bring back a clean one if we need to.
All right, so the question is,
All right, so
the reason you're concerned about doing this is the elevation of the streets, and then having the ground below the street, okay?
Yep.
And then having the water coming in off the street, correct?
Yes.
And then people complaining, and I understand that.
So 1 foot. So you're okay? You're going to drop that one, or you want us to vote on it?
If that's the case,
Yeah.
is 1 foot enough?
That's a.
I mean, I don't know the answer.
Doesn't seem it to me, if
But
that's
we know
your
my point
intention.
being is that, of course, we don't know, each street is going to be contoured, raised different levels,
Yeah.
so there's not one size that fits all.
No, it's true. 1 is the minimum, so you can go higher.
Oh, no, but my point is that, one size doesn't fit all.
There was this was debated, I remember, at length with everyone. I mean, it's a tough thing, right? Because like you said, each road is different. Some might be 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think when the discussion was, they settled on a foot, and maybe it's not enough. I mean, it's something that.
But naturally,
Could you do something to the effect of, instead of saying 1 foot, that a drainage plan will be submitted with the application, the building application or the plans to show the drainage will take place and we'll have, that will be adequate for proper drainage?
yeah, we have
Well, we have that.
we put it in there as a bonus to do more lot coverage, which everybody's going to do. And it's an engineered system.
As you know,
or
everybody
a
gets
system.
all the bonuses now anyway.
Yeah.
No matter what, the .47.
No, but this one is not a bonus as part of the FAR bonus. This is a lot coverage bonus. It's the only bonus for lot coverage. You're either going to lose 7% of your lot coverage or you do it. So that will be in there. Now, naturally, that 1 foot, you can bring it up as high as you want, but I think you can only go maximum 2 feet, right? I have to check the code there. But naturally, when you start to bring that up, we can't increase the height of the house.
I
So now
understand.
we're crunching the house again, right?
Okay.
So it's only so high you can go.
So my question is, do you want to stay at the 1 foot or do you want it to be variable?
Well, maybe, I think, and I remember we talked with Roland, maybe we have some idea, maybe Roland is here, could speak, like, what do we think that the roads might be, just on an average? I know everyone's going to be different, right?
Yeah, of course.
No, but Roland's going to tell you 10 feet. 'Cause that's what he wants.
No, but like that,
You wake
what's
her up,
You just scare
realistic
everybody in the island,
in
right?
this planning period, okay, let's just, what's
Well,
realistic?
one of the assumptions that I recall the discussion, the debate, as you mentioned, but one of the assumptions, I think, was that flood dissipation in the near future is going to be more uniform.
Gonna be what?
Is going to be more uniform because stormwater adaptations that we're working on now are going to make it so. So, for example, the Bermuda Triangle around Allendale and Palmwood and Redwood, which is a terrible condition typically, will be improved, and that this will work better.
Roland, what would be your height for this? What would you recommend?
Streets.
For the streets themselves?
What do you expect the minimum rise or raise of the streets will be in your ideal storm sewer water plan?
But in the planning horizon, I mean, you can't say.
Yeah, it's not now. This is like in 50 years, 20 years, whatever.
You know, I mean, it's really hard to say, but I could envision a foot higher street, on average. I could envision that. I mean, part of it depends on how much storage we want to create in the swales as well, and in which streets we might turn one way. So there's a lot of factors, not the least of which is what the existing topographic elevations are, which we're getting in detail from the LiDAR surveying. But I mean, I could see roadway elevations going up a foot. That doesn't seem like a big stretch. I mean, in some places it might be a little bit less, in some places it might be a little bit more.
Thank you. In that case, I'll withdraw my objection to that thing, okay?
365.
365. This one is just from a really practical standpoint, because that refers to what type of materials you're going to have when you park your car there. And we talk about the things you list there, and you're going to have differential settlement with all those type of things. So I'm saying the tracks where the wheels of the car go basically are extended, if they're concrete, whatever, so you have a firm support for your car. That's all.
Totally fine. We have that in our list over here. We put 500 square feet.
You agree with that too?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
That's fine.
Fine.
So it's the track of the wheel, though.
Yeah, we said 500 square feet, but we can do track of the wheel if you want.
The 500 square feet is fine.
It's just a 2-car garage.
It's a 2-car garage, yeah.
I like the track of the wheel.
Well, the problem with the wheels,
You park sometimes this way, you park sometimes over here.
A big wide pickup.
Yeah, Ed's got that Dodge.
So that's why I have 500, that's fine. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Next is.
Do we need to make a vote on that one, or everybody's good?
We're good. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Next one is 382. Permit some frame strips inside the house because the elevation permit larger treads, and that's 382.
Yeah, I don't line that up with what you were talking about.
I'm
so.
sorry, I just want to go back, since it's second reading and that 500 square feet is not currently written, can we just have a motion in a second?
Okay.
On
Make
that
a motion, Ed. I move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You can oppose it, I proposed it.
Motion
You
carries.
voted yes.
You vote against it, I proposed it.
Oh, it was your motion?
Yeah.
Oh, I voted no.
Yeah, but I made the motion. You just proposed it. That's how you have to get it done now.
All right, next one. 382 is probably the wrong number.
Yeah, it is.
Somewhere in here. I marked it down wrong. But basically, what happens is that as the house gets up higher and you get the front setback, which is small, if you want to have treads more than 11 inches, which is minimum, you would want them to come into the house. So in other words, it comes into the house and you have some steps in the house. And that should be permitted. Now, I know somewhere it says it's not.
Okay, so I think so. You want to be able to open up your air-conditioned space, come inside, and then go up with some more steps.
exactly.
You can do that. The only problem is, I believe, from a FEMA standpoint, they're going to recognize now your house at that level when you come in. They recognize when the lowest
Have
level
it
of the
from
air
the lowest
conditioning.
level. They have that now too.
Yeah.
Lowest habitable level.
Yeah.
And I think on that sheet, the FEMA sheet, you know,
But it does allow.
7 pages. That looks good.
But the uninhabitable spaces, you're allowed enclosed air conditioner, elevator, and stair vestibules for access to the first habitable level, which is number
number is that?
349, page 18, number 349.
18.
So it does allow stairs. So I'm guessing that we are allowed some, as long as breakaway walls.
I mean, as long as it's okay with FEMA, that's what I'm saying. Have the steps inside. Any objection to that?
Any objections from the FEMA standpoint? It's fine. Okay, it can be air conditioned?
Yes.
Air conditioning from the top.
According to the
Machines have to be over BFE, and you have to have breakaway walls or no?
No.
No.
It doesn't change the lowest floor elevation.
Does it change the lowest floor elevation?
If it is enclosed but for just access, no, it doesn't change the lowest floor. Anything
Okay.
that's access, parking or storage.
The reason I know that I did in my house, it's fine.
So it's already here under 3.
What is it?
It's already under number 3. I don't know if we need to add
number?
it somewhere else. 349.
349.
I don't know if we need to add it because that's just for understory. But I think what Ed is saying, if it's not an understory, if you're just walking up to your front porch and then you open the door and you go inside and you have another 5 steps that go up to the main floor, can you do that?
In that area be air conditioned. Typically, I would.
But you're going to be at BFE anyway, so you're going to be fine.
If you're going to be at the BFE +1,
Yeah.
then you're going to be okay. If you're below that, you can
349 is
have
over here
that-
on page
Yeah.
18.
So
habitable space.
the allowance to do this,
Page 18,
Doesn't
bottom of
change.
page 18.
the lowest floor.
Number 3, the bottom.
So what they're saying, Ed, is that it's understory if it's below BFE +1. If it's at BFE, so if you put your house at 4 feet over BFE, you can come in your entrance at BFE, open your door, and go in and go up another set of steps up 4 feet to get up to the level. And I think that's fine because it's putting your doors basically at where they are right now. So I think that would satisfy. We wouldn't have to put anything in the code. Anybody would be able to do that.
But there was I saw something somewhere that prohibited steps in the house. That was
Steps in the
When I
house?
say steps,
Yes.
all the front steps to get
Oh,
up
okay.
to the house,
Well, they
below
talked
the
about
floor.
It needs to be
It wasn't-
inside the house, like not jutting out in front. Is that what you're?
Yes, exactly.
That's for understory. So that's if you.
That starts at 349.
But that wouldn't apply because you're inside the house.
I agree, but I'm just saying there was something about that.
And this is a nice pattern book solution because the front door would be lower.
That's a good question because if you have a house that's 4 feet high that has an understory, but you also have a front porch facing the street that you don't see the understory, and you want steps to go up to your front porch that will take you into the house, and it's saying that your steps have to be towards the center, do we have a conflict there in the design? Because you want to allow people to have front steps to their porch. You don't want to take that away from somebody.
Because you wouldn't have, you'd have either steps in the understory that lead up, which requires a center placement, or you wouldn't, and you'd simply have steps that enter into the living space at base flood elevation.
Yeah, with a front porch or whatever they
And
have.
then you're
or front
inside
stoop.
and you keep walking up.
Right, so long as you're at that BFE +1 elevation, then you're okay, you're compliant to do whatever you want.
Okay.
there.
Olga, and Olga, you see it that way too from a zoning standpoint?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, we're good.
So you don't, so there's no, you're saying
They were
there's
saying
no.
that you don't, by right, you could do either one. You can
Okay,
do the
fine.
inside stair or you can do the outside stair.
Okay, fine.
So,
I'm happy.
all right,
The last
good
thing- The last thing was.
Hallelujah.
392 elevations discussed, so I guess.
And we
that's-
just discussed it, right?
My dear friend and colleague, Luis would say I'm not very competent or bright, so I don't understand it, so maybe you can explain it to me. The various elevations, just talk about lot elevations.
On A?
It starts at 392.
392A, front and rear zone?
All right, so front zone, we have it at, which I think is the first 15 feet from any street, I believe.
Well, basically, it can't be more than 2 feet above the crown of the road.
Can't be more than 2 feet above the
Now,
crown of the road.
if you start building the house up, you're gonna have the same type of effect. You probably want more than 2 feet. That's.
I think what we're just trying to get away is just having like a lawn that's going
I
straight up,
understand
right?
that. So basically, then would you put in there a slope rather than the footage? In other words, you can't have more than 3 and 1 slope, 1 and 3, whatever you want to have.
Yeah, we have 14% slopes.
Well, whatever, I'm just saying, rather than just have 2 feet, because it's fine depending on how high the house goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I would change the footage to a percentage slope, or since most people don't understand percents, I don't, you just have 1 and 3, 3 and 1, 1 and 4,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Is that acceptable?
So the effect of that would be to remove altogether the elevation of a filled lot, the maximum elevation of a filled lot?
No, it's only, he's just talking about the front.
Elevation in relationship, in other words, he has like 2 feet, which might be fine. At BFE, the street is, we'll say it's gonna be raised up to 6, and it goes up to 8, and the house is at 10, it's fine. But now the house is up to 12, BFE is 12, so now the thing is down here at 4, okay? And it's not fine. What we're really concerned about is the slope from the street. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
It's
So-
in the apron.
So it just should be based on the slope, whatever we want to have that. I don't know what the proper slope is, what you said, 17%, 14%,
I think
whatever.
it's 14 or 10%.
Whatever. All I'm saying is
Maybe
change the 2 feet to the slope. And it's going to vary depending on how far the house is set back.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
there's still a natural constraint because of the height limit.
yeah, most people won't be able to go much higher than 2 feet anyway, so we could change that to slope. I mean,
Okay,
it's,
fine, then I'm happy with that, okay? That's it. What?
all right. Rear zone, we already did. Do you want to make a vote on?
Make a motion? Yes.
Motion, second.
Clarify the motion.
Motion is to change the elevations starting 392, instead of 2 feet, to have a slope no greater than 14.
I think it's
14%. I think right now it goes as 14% maximum.
Yeah, how do you translate 14% in, how many inches?
So
What's the-
2 by 2 is 100%.
What is it?
2 by 2 is 100%.
I know that.
Or 1 by 1 is
Yeah, but what's
100%.
14%?
I'll have to do the calculation.
I mean, you put 14%, but, you know,
Probably like 3 inches or something
Right.
per foot.
you know, what I'm saying is that most contractors, 14%, what's that? I mean, architects.
Well,
you guys
architects
are
have to
smart,
do
we're
it,
dumb.
and then we'll put all the things on, the contractors just
Okay.
follow the spot
All I'm
elevations.
saying is, someone could just change that to whatever.
Ed, so are you saying to slope up 14%?
Maximum of 14%.
Maximum.
From the crown of the road?
From the crown of the road. They still have to make a swale, and then they have to go up
Right.
14%,
Correct.
But they
it's
can't go any
just-
higher.
Yeah.
but there's no maximum
We have
height.
no idea the correlation between, like you said, what 14% equates to in feet.
Well, I'm sorry.
I can tell you.
We don't know what 14% equates to in feet.
Well, I'm just saying what 14, that's what I'm asking, what 14% is. Is it, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5? I don't know what it is. I should know, but I don't. So, let 14% and translate it. So people understand it. That's it. That was my comments.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Oh, and
I
we
gotta
have
get
that, in on line 414, the cross-section slope to the swale shall not exceed 14%.
Yeah, there is 14% right there.
But we're just taking off the max of 2 feet, that's all. So if you want to keep the slope going up, you can go straight up to the house if you want.
Okay,
But you still got to make another swale up
Yeah.
in your property line and go up again.
exactly.
So
Well, that's it. You got to call the roll on that?
Sure. Council,
1 to 7. So every 1 feet you can go up 7 inches. No.
No, you go up 1.
1 inch every 7 inches.
You go up 1, it's 14.
Every 7 feet you go up 1
But
foot.
you're dividing 14 into 100. then that's not, I don't think it works that way. No, my calculator with me.
Yeah. So every 7 feet, you go up 1 foot. So 14 feet will get you to the 2 foot max that we're removing, and if you have more, you go up a little higher.
That's right.
Yeah.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola?
So are we at the same place then?
Yes.
Mayor Davey?
Yep.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor London?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. If we can quickly go through these items here, I think they'll go pretty fast. We already did the sheet that, the 1 through 11.
Go.
We already did, item number 1 was already voted on and
Where are you
approved.
now? Okay.
So we're going to start with item
Back
number,
on the items from Brett's list.
so item number 2 is line 301, page 16.
What happened to my idea for pulling this?
Yeah, but I just want to
You
make
want
sure
to go
that we
through
know
it?
what it is and we can do that.
All right, thank
I
you.
want to make sure we got that all clear, so when we bring it back, we don't have to do this again. All right, so FAR bonuses 8 and 9. It's very,
Page 16.
page 16, number 8 on the chart. So we brought this up. This is something I flagged today or yesterday, and we were going through it. And one of the issues here is that when you read this, it's a little bit confusing. And what we wanted to add was that notwithstanding or foregoing this bonus, this is another line that we're going to put at the bottom for the entire section. Notwithstanding the foregoing, this bonus is only applicable with 20 feet of adjacent side property line. So the idea is that if you have an L-shaped building and your window facing one of the property lines is 50 feet away, we don't think that this bonus doesn't have to be on those windows because you're so far away. It's really windows that are right up against the property line. However, somebody could build a house that is 7.5 feet setback and then set it back 1 foot, and all the windows on that 8.5 foot setback actually don't have to comply with this. Only the part that's touching the adjacent side, the closest part, so they could get away with getting the bonus and still have windows that are looking into your neighbor's yard, which is not what the intent is. So what I'm saying is within the first 20 feet, any windows that are facing that property line would have to comply with this, no matter if it's the farthest, closest, as long as it's within 20 feet. Once you pass the 20 feet, I think you're far away enough that you're not right on top of your neighbors, and the intent is fulfilled.
Excuse me, isn't there a regulation that, I don't know if it's a fire department or whatever, that a bedroom can't have a window higher than 32 or 34 inches so you get out of it?
Yeah, but
how's that
that's for
affect
bedrooms. So again, this gives you options. This doesn't only have to do, what we changed in here is it's not just windows that are above 5 feet. You can also just put translucent film on your windows.
Okay.
So that way, because
Fine.
I said, who wants
Fine,
windows
no
like
problem.
that? You might
Okay.
want light in, but it
That
gives
works.
privacy. Okay, do you want this, make a motion? And that
Let me ask you something,
Yeah.
maybe to save time. These lists, page 1, is all your recommendations subsequent to the thing. And what is page 2?
Page 2 is just what changed from last workshop to this workshop.
Well, I
There
think
was some
page
adjustments.
2, Councilmember, were ideas that were brought up during the workshops.
Okay, ideas.
And we worked on them.
and
In
that
terms
this-
of
and
action,
that-
well,
Correct, and that those ideas were then taken back to like the working group of all of us that were working on it, and then we added some in, and we didn't. So these ones-
my question is, this page is your thoughtful review of, I withdraw my overall objection and I move the whole thing.
Okay. Do you want me to just go through just so you guys
I just
know
read
what it
this
is?
today, don't have a chance to read this.
Yeah, but I trust him, I don't trust
Well, I
you.
trust you. But I don't.
I'll second that.
What, you trust Louise?
No, I trust Brett, not you.
I personally don't need, I trust your judgment. I think in the interest of time, huh?
I really love the addition at number 9. I thank you for that. That was a helpful addition.
Okay.
Something that alleviates something that I'm not quite reconciled to, but I think I will support despite my reservations.
Okay, excellent.
So I make it a formal motion
Okay.
that we
the vote?
accept
I'm
these.
still reading it, Louise.
Well,
I haven't got through this thing yet.
Number 1 and 5 has already been voted on.
No.
I'd like to just read 7 in context. That's line, what is that for?
We, just so you know, 7, we thought that that was leftover language from a, it just didn't make sense.
So this was a miss in the drafting.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense. We kept reading it going, what is this? So
Yeah,
some of it's
I
just
have
Scrivener
notes on
stuff that
this.
we're just kind of cleaning up. that we
I think
found.
I'd share with you this. I had that experience recurringly. I did not put the effort in to try to rewrite this, but I find grammatical problems occasionally and convoluted sentence structure often. And I was hoping that we could improve the grammar, and sometime I'd like to revisit that part of this.
Yeah.
But I want to support this anyway because the substantive improvements I think are important, and the grammar we can catch up with.
Yeah, I think, and we can always bring stuff back and tweak it if
I
it's
hate
never
to agree
perfect.
with Luis, but I agree with him.
Okay.
This is good.
All right.
So call the question.
Oh, no, they-
Just for clarification,
No, do we
so
want to
it's
discuss
number
the items,
2,
line
3,
items? Or
4,
people don't want to?
and then 6 through 11?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any discussion or?
No.
All right.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola.
Yes.
Mayor Davy.
Yep.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo.
Yes.
Vice Mayor London.
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Beautiful.
An incredibly important issue with staffing. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, guys.
Is there a possibility to get into the habit of putting dates on papers?
Yeah, you
Please.
have to do the ordinance
Try.
too, right?
Next time.
So that we.
So we still have to make a motion on the ordinance if we want to do
Yes,
the
I
ordinance.
move the ordinance.
Seconded.
Okay, but we haven't voted on that yet.
No, we have to move on,
Okay.
no, we have to vote
As
on the
amended,
Vote
right?
on it as
As
amended.
amended, yeah.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo.
Yes.
Vice Mayor London.
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick.
Yes.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola.
Ignacio, you awake?
Council?
He's.
Yes? Thank you. Mayor Davy.
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on second reading.
Awesome, excellent.
Thank
Well,
you.
I also thank the council for your guys' time for being part of the process as well.
Very exciting.
Very good, guys. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Okay. Next item is public comments. Pete, can you read the instructions just one more time?
Brett, this we just disregard for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, watching us on channel 77, channel 99, or streaming us live via our website. If you wish to address the council in comment, please dial the following telephone number: 305-365-7569. And then please enter meeting ID 231-627-8415. For those of you currently in the meeting that wish to speak, please raise your hand by dialing star 9 on your telephone, or by simply raising your hand in the Zoom app.
How many people have lined up, Pete?
I have no one lined up this year.
All right.
All right, we're going to close public comments, move on to reports and recommendations.
Village Manager, Manager's Report.
It's over, can't be later than 8 o'clock. It's
Sorry.
fine, so. Too late.
Go ahead, Mr. Manager,
All
light
right,
it
good-
up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Again, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I believe most of you all have met our new chief of police, but I do want to acknowledge Chief Frank Souza is our new chief of police. He's been on board just over a week. Welcome, Chief. It's great to have you part of the team. Secondly, you will see that we kind of restructured the manager's report. And what we want to do is we're following what I see as our 5 goals, the administration goals, which is a safe and secure village. It is a thriving and vibrant local community. And it is engaging in active public spaces and programs, an accessible, connected, and mobile village-wide transportation, and a resilient and sustainable environment and infrastructure. So we'll be following those 5 goals. And so usually in any presentation that we'll give to you, we will follow those in that order. And if you read the first letter of each word, Mr. Mayor, It actually spells steer. Yet another acronym for you.
Thank you so much.
So, also, we've added to the manager's report a roll-up of all the capital plan projects. We have 24 this year, so we want to make sure that we update you at least once a month on the status. So you'll also see that in the packet as well. So with that, I will ask Chief Souza. You're the first one to the podium.
That was the last we saw of Chief Souza. Be nice, Ed.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm tasked with giving an update on Crandon Boulevard. We had 3 incidents from October 14th through October 20th, where we had incidents with juveniles crossing Crandon. The first one on October 14th at 400 Crandon. We had a 16-year-old fall off of a bike. No injuries, refused rescue. The next day at Crandon and Grand Bay, we had a 7-year-old grazed by a vehicle, no injuries. Rescue did treat the juvenile. And then finally on October 18th at Crandon and Key Colony, we had a driver collide with a juvenile. The juvenile was treated on scene and released. As a result of these incidents, myself and Deputy Chief Eunice, Chief Lang, and Jake went out to Crandon to implement some immediate safety measures. We deployed a traffic VMS board at 400 Crandon, and we also put one at Key Colony facing the exit. We've placed an officer in the Village Green at 5:30 p.m. until the lights turn off at the park, and we also have an officer at Key Colony between 5 and 6 p.m. In that time, we've issued 42 warnings and 29 citations, and we've had over 123 details of officers checking the area in that time frame. We did walk it last evening with the mayor and Jake to look at some recommendations for the crosswalks also. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I think it was one of the first emails that I sent over to you when you became manager too, is that Crandon is, for me, is the most important thing when it comes to public safety.
100%.
So, and I'm seeing you. I mean, on the way here, I was just telling him that you guys were parked right at that crosswalk where we've been having issues, and that's what we need. We need to be very proactive and educate the kids and the adults who cross without looking, also, as well as the drivers. I mean, it's a two-way responsibility to make sure that this is safe.
Yeah, Chief Lang and I took some time to educate some of the youth yesterday that were crossing at the crosswalk and not looking, and it's something we plan on meeting and enhancing.
Excellent.
Chief,
Mayor, I'm sorry.
All right, Councilman.
Part observation, part question. The crosswalk lights seem to be working really well, and it seems to me that behavior modification has taken root and people are actually observing them, more so than initially. There's always a rollout. Brett has the same experience because we work on Brickell. The lights that are deployed by the city of Miami, by way of contrast, are almost always red. And nobody knows what to do because there's no pedestrians anywhere in sight, and they don't work. And ours seem to. They activate when they're supposed to, and they deactivate when the situation is clear.
Yeah, based on my limited time in the village, they seem to work every single time someone comes up to the intersection. I know there was one area, I believe, yesterday that we discussed. By the fire station, that Chief Lang's aware, and so is Jake. So I believe they're working on that.
The takeaway for me is that when there's a perhaps obvious defect in a signal, the ambiguity that results actually can create a more dangerous condition than if the signal wasn't there in the first place.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. First of all,
Councilmember Laredo.
yes, welcome formally and before us, and I think most of the people who don't know you and are probably watching that, it's a very, very tough competition. You stood out, and so we welcome you. It's a great opportunity to start anew. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't bring your wife to introduce to us. I expected that because I know that her support is critical to you doing great work. So
she was here, Meet the Chief night, and she'll be here several other times, so everyone will have a chance to meet her.
I hope to meet her, yes. This is, almost 3 years ago I was sworn in, and I've been asking the same question since then. First of all, the blinking red lights to your issue in Brickell, because I see that, and I brought this up 100 times. I never get a short answer, which could be negative. And today I had an incident, and somebody, some of these normal people in our village have some very good ideas. The yellow blinking creates a lot of confusion, particularly once the people clear. And particularly in the one in the park. Kids, and we just happened to have seen it, could see it as come up, it's like a few seconds later, they dash across. I continue to be convinced, and 2 years ago with Jake, we went over this in Key West where they have them. Red, because red is a more compelling, I got to stop until it stops blinking. Yellow, as you know, is kind of a soft, you do have to make the stop, but then afterward you go. Have we ever, can you just get me an answer back? Just, no, we don't want to do it, or yes, we cannot do it. We've gotten all these convoluted non-answer answers from previous management.
I'm not sure the question.
I had suggested to come back to us with the idea that the blinking pedestrian crosswalk, instead of yellow, should be red. And I said, Key West, we first time saw it, and on Brickell, across from Santa Maria, it's another one as well. And if we cannot do it, just tell me. But it's been 2 years at least.
It's been a long time. I don't believe we can
haven't gotten an answer. It could be, hey, we cannot do it.
We can't do it. I think that's the understanding.
People ask me, and I say, I don't know, but I asked it.
Go ahead,
Originally, when they were first put in, there was some sort of, and Frank, you'll remember this, and probably Brett, there was some sort of an issue going on. There was a lawsuit with intellectual property inside the lights themselves. And we were told that no adjustments could be made until that was resolved. But to Councilmember Laredo's point, it's been some time, and it's possible that there has been a resolution, and that if a change like that could take place, it may be possible now. So I think the question is, can you find out from the county if it's possible to change them?
Yes, we can. In fact, if you follow what we're trying to do here, we're looking at it in 3 steps. First one is short-term, get police out there.
Yeah, but Steve, forgive me for interrupting me. I just want to stay very narrowly on this question. Can you make a point to come back to us and say, no, we cannot do it, or yes, we can do it?
The answer is yes, we will look into it. We will look into it. But it's a bigger question than that, because it includes much more. Because it also includes crosswalks and signage and so forth. But yes, we will definitely bring you back an answer on that. And that's kind of our second step of where we want to go, because we need to talk to the county. There's a lot of confusion out on our roads. There's a lot of signs, a lot of lights, a lot of crosswalks, a lot of left turns, a lot of right turns. And we're considering maybe closing some of the crosswalks just to increase safety and reduce the amount of crossing where our
all of which I applaud. But when you're approached by a regular person and ask you, what happened to your idea or the council idea about putting red? It's been 2.5 years that I, as an elected official, says, I don't know. And the answer could be, no, we cannot do it, like McCormick said. But we get wonderful answers that are very vague. So yes, we can do it, or no, we can do it, because there was a will of the council that if we could do it, red is a little bit more impacting. Notwithstanding that you change, maybe, okay.
Well, the answer is yes. We are looking into it.
And the second question that is 2.5 years also waiting for an answer, we got some emails this week as well, is those so famous smart lights that we invested money on, and that we all know that they're not smart. There's got to be a resolution, because I think we paid for a system, right? We paid for. No,
we got money from the state to pay for it.
All right, but I mean, it was paid for.
Yeah.
A provider made a profit of us through state revenues for putting us smart lights. And they clearly are not smart. And a lot of smart people are saying, what happened to the smart lights? Again, long before you got here, we've been talking about this 2.5 years ago. It may be that there's a short answer. No, we cannot. Technically, we cannot. But so that we can help you say to the city, no, we can't do it. So can you just, in the next, now that we have it fresh, give us an answer to those 2 questions? You saw that Mr. Who wrote eloquently on Rickenbacker brought that up again, one of our engaged citizens on the smart lights. And the answer could be very simple, but we need an answer.
Indeed, we will definitely answer
I
those two
appreciate
questions.
that. It's great to have you.
Happy to be here.
Go ahead, Councilman McCormick.
Welcome to the council chambers. And
Thank you.
the one thing that I wanted to add to Councilmember Laredo, or maybe it was you mentioned the area by the fire station. And one thing that I'd like to share with you, because I can't remember if it was in the Crandon Boulevard roadway improvement plan that we got from the Corradino group that suggests removing some of the crosswalks and some of these other things. It's a great comprehensive plan with lots of wonderful ideas, but the one thing I can't remember that I have heard many times from residents, and I'd like to share with you, is that when you're heading north on Crandon from, let's say you're starting at East Enid going north, the first light that you see in front of the firehouse is almost always green unless they're exiting. But the way the road curves, it sneaks up on you seeing the next light, which is at Galen. And even the type of light that it is one of those ones that like you have to be at the right angle to really see it. And there have been a lot of near misses, thank goodness, of kids because people see the green in front of the firehouse and don't slow down. And then if that light at Galen is red, it really sneaks up on you. So I've seen in other places in front of firehouses where it's a blinking yellow until they're coming out. I don't know if that's a possible change. I don't want to try to come up with what the solution is, but that's definitely something that I think you need to look at.
Yeah, we discussed that yesterday. I know Chief Lang is looking into it. We discussed it with the manager.
Great.
By the way, thank you. I thought it was my eyesight.
No.
That light, yeah, it's like.
You have to hit it just
no, and
right.
also that you don't see it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And you'll hear more about some of the capital ideas from Jake as he comes up later. For now, I'd like Renee to come forward. Talk about our electronic plans.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. So I'm here to give you an update here on the electronic plan review. We have updated our system to allow our customers to upload their applications on their plans electronically. This will, the benefits of this, among many, is the customers will be able to upload from their offices or their homes electronically to our, and reducing the traffic of people that come into the building department to process permits. Secondly, those, since we have them in electronic format, various reviewers will be able to review the plans at the same time simultaneously, and this will also reduce the time. Instead of taking it from desk to desk, we'll be able to look at them at the same time. And another one that's very attractive to the customers would be that once we get into an agreement with Miami-Dade County to be able to upload electronically the plans for Durham, they won't have to carry those hard copies over there anymore. We'll be able to do it for them, and then they'll be able to monitor it. So those are some of the benefits. On a second issue, just a brief update on the risk rating management point 2.0, the new rating that started already on October the 1st of this year for new policies, and for existing policies, it will be that are going to be renewed on April 2022. They will be applied to those. The ones that are new are going to be 100% as soon as they apply for it. The ones that are going to be renewed after April will be at gradually come up to the rate that is supposed to be with a cap increase of 18%. Now this, again, we spoke about this before. This is gonna, I think FEMA put out some kind of a comment saying that it's going to be represent some $10, $20 a month increases in the. I think it might be a bit more than that. They will. That's on the last meeting that we had. That was the general consensus opinion of everybody. They basically what they will do now is they will go through a program that they have. Select a specific house, your home, and they'll be able to consider options, other flood risks that your house, particular house, may be exposed to, depending on proximity to water, frequency of floods, and things like that. And this will give an idea to insurance companies of how much the premiums are going to be for your flood. We recommend everyone to start contacting their insurance agents so they can get a more idea, an accurate idea from the insurance perspective from FEMA. Finally, continue to work with the CRS aggressively to try to reduce that rating. The lower the rating, it'll mean that we still apply the 5% reduction on whatever insurance you are given by your insurance company. We're right now at 8, like we said before. We're working towards a 7. We're already close to a 7, and working on getting to a 6, which is a bit of a longer process, but at least for now, my hope is to get a 7 within this year. And unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
What I understood, my recent trip to Tallahassee, talking to various people, the 18% is actuarially they're going to try to rate the house based on the risk. Once that house is rated, we'll say, for argument's sake, your insurance is going to go up 4 times, 400%, but it'll be limited to an 18% per year till the next guy buys it. Then it goes to market. It's only while you still have it is 18%. Right. And before they were also talking about if you had as a primary residence, did they change that at all? Because before, if you were rented it out or did anything else, then you went to market immediately. That was a previous, I guess, the first one which they rescinded. So do you know about that or not?
You mean if you have your home plus another house?
In other words, you have a house, and said but you decide not to sell it. You moved it out and rented it out. You made a mistake. You rented it to Laredo. Okay. So when you did that, you no longer were considered the same rate, the 18%, but it went to market rate, to the actuarially determined market rate. Is that still the case on this thing?
I'll have to look into that.
Okay, that was number one. Number two, the CRS community rating system, actually, when this is implemented properly, completely, then there's no more community rating system, CRS, because they're going to rate each house individually. Supposedly they have the data and the aerials and all the other stuff to do that. So when this is implemented, does the CRS system go away? I got the impression that it did.
They would still try because, again, the purpose of the CRS is for the area to try to do whatever it takes the municipality to avoid flood conditions, not only for that specific house, but for the entire area. Whatever actions the municipality takes, like informing the public constantly, that's for and that 5% will continue to
but
happen.
What I was saying is that I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but the way I understood it was that, fine, they're going to look at this house, and the road is at 4.5 feet. Okay, and we have no storm sewers or anything else. And they're looking at your house. This house is at 5 feet. You're going to have a very high insurance premium because there's a very good chance, probabilistic, of getting a flood. But the next house next door is 8 feet higher, or whatever. The chance of him getting a flood is very unlikely. His rate is going to be much lower, or very low.
Right.
Now, if you raise the streets, say a foot, we're talking about, then this guy's house is even lower, okay? But of course, it's higher for the flood.
Right.
So all I'm saying is that, yes, by doing these things in the community, it'll certainly help everybody, but I don't think the rating will be by the community. I think the rating, at least I understood it, was going to be on an individual house by house basis.
As of right now, there is no indication CRS is going away. Perhaps it might be.
I mean, if we
ultimately get to the full risk rating system.
When we get the full implementation, then the next thing is mitigation. And that's what they said, that when we talk to people, they don't know what the mitigation credits will be, vis-a-vis Citizens Insurance, any other insurance company. You put up shutters or glass, you get one credit. You do this, another credit, all different credits for making your house, in this case, more flood-proof. And so far, I understand they haven't come up with no mitigation credits yet.
Again, they're still going back and forth on a lot of these things with the risk rating. They don't have all the answers yet. There is, on the report, there is a link where you can go to, and it says that they're still going back and forth on decisions that they got to make.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a reason why it's risk rating 2.0. There was a risk rating 1.0. I think those numbers are going to continue to grow. But I still think there's a place for the CRS because there are things.
I'm not saying a place, another place. I'm
that
saying
we can do.
What they're going to do.
Yeah, that we can do to support it. Now, will continue to be the same structure and rating, Probably not, but there will be things, I believe, that if the community does, that it can help to reduce
I'm all
folks'
for
rating.
it. I'm just saying, I don't know that it's going to be as significant once they have this whole system in helping us as it is.
No,
today.
I
That's all. I'm
think the
saying
model will
continue.
change. Yeah, I think the model will change, but I mean, as of for right now, we need to go after it because we can reduce, our residents' insurance by 5%.
And I think our residents have to realize how high the insurance is going to go.
Yeah.
Especially the ones in the low-lying houses, the ones below VFE. It's going to be probably, some people say, certainly it'll be higher than your mortgage
We're
payment.
trying to work to get more information, more accurate information than that. A few of the CFMs are talking to people in FEMA to get a more realistic increase, what's going to be, because what is said at the beginning of $10, $20 a month, that doesn't sound like it's going to be that way.
Yes, what we reported, if you recall, and we can obviously bring it back up if you'd like us to send it back to you, and on August 24th, where we actually identified the number of houses that were going up, most of them were. Actually, we had a few that went down. Surprising, they must be higher than we thought they were. But they're beginning to identify it by house, which I think is where you were talking about. And that becomes very significant because this becomes an individual responsibility in what they do with their own home.
There is actually a website, Flood Factor, FEMA Flood Factor, that they are putting out there. And not from FEMA, but there's a company that created this website, and they're using that you put your address, and it gives you a history and status of all your conditions for flood in your specific home.
Good.
And I think this ties very well to the conversation we just had on the zoning changes, and because that's important. As we begin to put zoning requirements in place, we can help them help themselves.
Yes. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
May I say something regarding the CRS?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, forgot.
You don't have to take
Okay,
it off.
so-
He's not the boss of everybody, despite what he says.
I'm hard of hearing, all right?
Yeah, you are.
And it's easier to read lips, right? I don't know if you could see me that far, but the CRS. The CRS, yes, the risk rating 2.0, it's more specific to each individual property, but it would, if anything, the CRS would not be dwindled, it would be enhanced, because the CRS isn't just about individual properties, but it has so many activities. You have stormwater drainage, you have catch basins, you have a series of things that are part of the CRS and activities that isn't just related to specifically the one property. So if anything, I would say, that just my 2 points, the risk rating 2.0 is just getting closer to what the ultimate goal of the CRS is, to just strengthen it and ultimately help.
Can't hurt.
Okay.
I think it comes from both sides. It's kind of like a public-private partnership, so to speak.
All right.
All right. Next.
So next up, Jake, we'll talk more about Crandon Boulevard and more of the long-term goal on what we're looking at in terms of a capital improvement.
This is section 3.
This is section 4.
So section 3,
Canceled. There's
it's
nothing to
no
report.
updates. Later on, next meeting, you explain what engaging and active public spaces is a program.
We can do that.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Crandon Boulevard project, this project is in our number one priority group for this year. In CIP, we funded $900,000 for this year to improve the safety on Crandon Boulevard, as well as improve the roadway level service so we can move the traffic. We are working with one of our engineering consulting firm to prepare engineering plans, and their work order will be before the council November 16 meeting. And I'm just going to go over, and I'm going to summarize what the work order is going to include, which is this on long-term goals. The first thing is to design and construct approximately 300 feet long southbound right turn lane from Crandon Boulevard to Harbor Drive to alleviate that traffic. Number 2, design and construct 80 feet southbound left turn lane from Crandon Boulevard to Key Colony. So this will provide additional queue lane for the cars that are trying to go into Key Colony, going southbound. Number 2, we're going to modify the Harbor Drive Fermer Road roundabout, possibly eliminate southern leg on peak hours to move the traffic faster, but we'll analyze that. We don't know.
Yeah, how are you thinking about doing that? That makes me.
We'll do some analysis and modeling to see how that's going to turn out, but there may be some opportunities there to better it.
Okay, let's remember
Yeah.
who we're dealing with.
We are going to speak with Key Colony HOA and the neighborhood to possibly provide an entrance to Key Colony from Sonesta Drive. That's going to be analyzed on this project. We're going to look at all regulatory signage on Crandon Boulevard from beginning to end. We have a signage pollution that we have to remove a lot of signs. We're going to consider the marked crosswalk that are less than 600 feet spacing and possibly eliminate a number of them and keep the one that are safe and make it a bit more safer to use. We'll install pedestrian countdown signals and some geometric changes in roadways to reduce the distance that are crossings and possibly touch the bike lanes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the traffic signals that the council has questioned. Number one, to answer the Councilmember McCormick, we argued with the county about the very traffic light in front of the fire station, and former police chief and myself, we wrote a long memo and argued, besides a number of published papers out there, why shouldn't be there and this and that, but unfortunately what it came down to, fortunately, there are too many near misses and there are no accidents. That's what it comes down to. Now, that was last year. There's a new administration, we have a new manager, our relationship changed. I believe we have calendared a meeting with the new Department of Transportation Public Works Director, the manager, so this will be discussed. We're not letting it go, but the county is giving us a hard time. And unfortunately, we can't go at the same speed as the county does. It's theirs, but we haven't given up the fight yet. And the Councilman Loreto, those signs, they call it the Hawk signal, the one that you and I saw in Key West. We asked the county to take a look and possibly install that on Grand Bay, Village Green, and Crandon Boulevard. You're right, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And then COVID happened. Of course, everybody used an excuse, including myself. Last April, about 6 months ago, county finally did a traffic counts and did the entire corridor study on the warrant analysis of the signals. And they said, let alone the Hawk, the Grand Bay intersection doesn't even require this rapid flash and beacon sign. And former chief of police and myself, we told them we argue otherwise, those counts are wrong. In the morning, they argued that they had less than 20 people crossing the intersection. It's incorrect. Every time bus stops, I counted myself, 10, 15 people comes out in one bus stop. So long story short, we haven't given up the fight. This is also included in our Crandon Boulevard project, and that's one of the areas that's going to get the first attention. So it is in works. We like I said, we received a light no from the county, but we didn't take that answer, and we're still pursuing to get that done.
Right.
Councilmember McCormick?
Sure.
Sorry, she had a question.
Sorry. So what I think I hear you saying is that it isn't possible to just like change the color of the lights of the system we have there. We had to ask for the whole new system that utilizes red lights, and they said no?
Oh, are you referring to Grand Bay?
The whole thing?
No, that is why you're confusing the point. She's confused as I am.
Okay.
We were not asking.
Not for a new one.
Not for a new one, a Grand Bay, and that incredibly faulty analysis, because all you have to do is sit there and have a coffee, and
Right.
whoever they are. We were talking strictly about those that are already on, which is one just down the road a little bit, a block,
Right.
and the other whether those yellow lights can be changed to red. Period.
We did not ask that.
But that's what we've been asking for 2.5 years.
So we asked for that signal to be on Grand Bay. That's what we
No,
asked.
that is not correct.
That was what we were, he's right about that, but the second part is what they're talking about.
Okay, understood. But no, we did not ask that. But if that's the vision of the council.
But now, do you understand the question
sir.
narrowly?
Yes,
We
yes, I
just,
do.
on the existing thing, we want a red light. Okay.
I do, yes.
Thank you. May I ask you a question on your report?
Sure.
What is long-term for you, more or less?
The long term is in this fiscal year. In November 16, we are going to bring a work order for council approved to proceed with the engineering drawings. If that gets approved, it's going to take approximately 3 months to get those plans done. We can be in construction 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, let me tell you, the very critical intersection which frustrates a lot of people, the entrance to Key Colony.
Yes.
If you execute the entry, the alternative for additional through Thronesta Drive, it's going to be a paradigm shift. And it's very easy to do. How do you anticipate that be within a year?
Physically, as far as the constructability, one of the easiest solutions. However, I'm told, again, talking to Deputy Chief Younes, when this was entertained a number of years ago, there was some resistance from the neighborhood, the homes that are in the area. So again, that's something that we deal with. But as far as the constructability, that would be the easiest solution, and then the one that we get the faster results. Yes, you're 100% right.
And just so that you put it in your, if you have even an exit only, which is very easy because it would be 50%, and you would not have to, for aesthetic reasons or otherwise, build a security outfit that that some of the single-family homes would object to.
Yeah, it's a minimal impact, and then again, we thought about, you don't even have to have a guard booth there. You could just do residents only. So if you have a fob, you can just turn on and off.
Perfect.
So it's very basic. But again, there will be some discussion with the neighborhood to make sure we can sell it.
So that long term then could be up a year, between a year and 2 years, or more or less?
No, I mean, we're going to start the construction this year. That's guaranteed. How far are we going to go? That I don't know. Certain things, for example, key counting may take some time to convince everybody. But one of our first targets is to build the dedicated right turn lane from Crandon Boulevard down to Harbor Drive, so that we can alleviate the backup on the first intersection. So that's the first go. And so we're going to attack all that low-hanging fruit so we can do some immediate improvements.
And so we're looking at this from two directions. One is particularly the first 3 intersections, which we know are huge congestion areas. And then we also have to look at it from a safety perspective. So we're going to tie those together. And as Jake mentioned, we hope to bring that to you on 16th. If the council approves that, we'll begin design 3 or 4 months. Obviously, be in a community engaged process. And then hopefully come back in April timeframe for construction.
Thank you.
That's all I got on Crandon Boulevard safety. And Mr. Manager, you want to proceed to CIP or?
Yeah, if you would. So
Go ahead. Oh,
interesting. These people here. Go ahead. What's up?
So, Mr. Mayor. So what I told you before, and what I'd like to have Jake do once a month, every time we have a council meeting, is just to go over the capital improvement plan, just so you have a good update of the projects that we're doing and the status that they're at.
Okay.
Obviously, we're at the beginning of the year, so it's just the beginning, but it'll give you an idea of what you'll see each month.
No. Okay, so we have the project listed, and then we have priority groups assigned, and they could tell you that where is that the project lays in our radar. And again, this number is the phase percent complete. A lot of them are 0 because fiscal year just started. But I'm just going to go over some of the projects that we made headway. As you know, the fleet is moving forward to purchase of the police vehicles and other public safety cars. Vessel exclusion zone improvements, that's about halfway done, I believe. Roland, we got the permit today, right, from the Florida Fish and Wildlife?
Fish and Wildlife, I have FEP, I have class 1 permit submitted to Durham.
Okay. That's moving forward. Public beach access improvements, we got the easement. As you know, the council accepted it. The design is being done in-house. We also applied for a grant, so we're hoping that we're going to get some monies there and improve that easement on Sands property. Community center roof replacement of 5%. I think we are scoping the project. And Lake Park improvements, construction's about 26%, and that's ongoing on schedule. And Village Green interior sidewalk renovation is about 32%. We designed the plans in-house, and I believe we're going to put it for
bidding between today and tomorrow, and we're going to start the construction and take care of that Village Green Interior sidewalk in the next couple of months. So those are the CIP projects that have some movements, but again, the fiscal year just started, so hopefully upcoming months I'm going to give more updates. And also I'll take this opportunity that tomorrow we have a community engagement meeting in Community Center at 6:30 at Lighthouse Room for Beach Park improvements. So what we want to do is we have an architect on board to kind of guide us and what we want to do. And the goal is to have community tell us what they want to see in Beach Park and rank them, and so that we can deliver what they want within the budget that we have. So that's the goal. It's happening tomorrow, 6:30. We sent out the Village Connect to the community, and we reached out to citizens to come join us. So if you have time, if you're around, please come join us. Tell us what you want to see so we can take into account. And the goal is to design this based on this input and bring before the council in January as a concept, and pick a site plan, and then let that as a design build contract.
Jacob, though, we're also going to have a second community meeting on site, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So this is just the first one, just to solicit
For this
some.
park?
Yeah.
Beach Park.
For the beach park.
Yeah.
But tomorrow one is at the community
The
center.
community is anxious to see something being built. We've studied so much. I mean, by the way, congratulations to you and everybody in the police department as well, because the massive construction at the St. Agnes, I mean, they're doing great in terms of it hasn't really, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised. You guys are doing a good job, because that could have been a nightmare. I mean, there's inconveniences.
Huh? You're surprised they're doing a good job?
No, I'm surprised.
Okay.
It's just that I go to church there to pray for you, and it's very difficult.
Glad you do.
And sometimes,
Somebody has to.
and I cross the
You get any
street to
time
the
off.
synagogue. They don't even let me go to the synagogue. They say, London, forget it. Go across the. No, but seriously, you and the police and everything, it's been, I could have been a big mess, and it's a lot of work, and I think it's they're going forward, I think, very reasonably. People are, but I mean, I'm just telling you, let's don't have so many hearings and stuff.
I
Because
think that this is the first time I've heard we're doing any workshop on the beach park.
This is the
Yeah,
first
two
one.
of us.
Yeah, but we're doing two. I think that's great. One
Yeah.
in the room to kind of get an idea, and then one on site so people can speak to the aesthetics and what could go there.
Yeah.
I want a wave pool, so if you can make that happen, that'd be great.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've
Wave.
gotten my share.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to swim.
So, anyway, no, I think it's great. Look, I applaud you for moving forward. Let's get it going.
Yeah. Okay, so that's tomorrow. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So next up, and I apologize, I may not have it completely wrapped up of our visit from the mayor and the vice mayor, but I think the mayor gave a pretty good summary. But let me just kind of give you an overview of why we went to Tallahassee to start with, and some of the things that we heard.
We agreed not to talk about what happened in Tallahassee for the benefit of certain individuals.
Yep.
Well, I'm talking up to 5:30, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
That's
fine.
it.
And did you guys stay overnight?
We were there 2 nights.
stayed for a week.
That's just enough
so you were
for the
2
vice
nights.
mayor to get in trouble.
I
Yes.
see. I see.
They had to make bail. It's
No, we didn't. We didn't have to make, he can move pretty quickly when he's got rollers coming behind him. It's pretty impressive.
I know where you probably were.
motivation.
All right, anyway, sorry. That's enough lightheartedness.
We got the village business done. So first, I think you've seen the agenda, what we're trying to achieve at the state level. We have 3 appropriation requests, and first one, top one, number priority is funding for the Crandon Boulevard traffic flow and safety, all what we've been presenting this evening. The second one is sargassum and seaweed removal and also composting. That will be huge for the village, not only for the environmental purpose for composting, but also the ability to save money, because we spend a lot of money to truck haul our seaweed and sargassum up to a dump site up in Davie. And then thirdly, a stormwater water quality initiative that would tie into our stormwater system so we protect the Biscayne Bay. So those are our top 3 that we went forward to Tallahassee with. The 2 legislative topics we were discussing is a modification of the PSC's and FPL's method to rate their feeder and lateral lines for underground. That's still a discussion and topic, and We went up against a very bureaucratic organization, but what we did find out, and I'll tell you a little bit more in detail later, is that FPL is doing their 10-year report, and it does come in April. So we're in contact with FPL, and we're going to determine how we can have the potential to influence that process. And the second legislative issue is identifying how we can benefit from the Billbag State Park or a state facility using our road as their only access point. There are statutes on the book that states that a municipality who maintains a road to a state facility should be obtaining a recurring maintenance cost. And so we're asking for $150,000 a year to maintain Crandon. So that continues to be worked on. We went up to reinforce 3 of our grant supports. The first one is our Infrastructure Program Strategy and Integration Implementation Plan. We met with Rebuild Florida, fantastic meeting with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. That particular grant is a planning grant, and we will find out in December whether that moves forward. The other two grant requests, one of which is K8 Central Stormwater Basin and the Utilities Resilience and Undergrounding, were adjudicated in September and October. Unfortunately, Utilities Resilience and Undergrounding did not make it through to the second round. However, K8 Central Stormwater Basin did, and we submitted that second follow-up on Monday. What we will do is we'll take that Utilities Resilience and Infrastructure Undergrounding, and we will submit that as a FEMA BRIC grant. And this is where I began to lose the mayor with all these acronyms.
Yes.
But, Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities, BRIC. I do have to give kudos completely to the Converge team. They were super.
They were excellent.
Between Mario Bailey and Jonathan and the folks they brought on to support us. Yeah, Gerard and Jared.
Gerard, sorry.
Yeah, it was Gerard. Yeah, I think it's Gerard, yeah. Gerard is a FDOT specialist. So there may be a topic that we won't mention tonight, but as you can imagine, he'd be very helpful on. And so that's something that we will pursue. Just a quick one. I will send you a written comment report, but just a quick one. We did meet with the Florida League of Cities. Fantastic meeting with the staff and the director. 2 things I do want to bring up to legislations that will have an impact on the village. The first one is Senate Bill 282, and that will actually require a business impact statement for the passage of any new ordinances or major changes to ordinances. So obviously, particularly for a village of our size, that'll be a very, very costly endeavor. You know, as we just passed a new ordinance. We just modified an ordinance. So that would have required a business impact statement. So we'll keep our eyes on that Senate bill because that is a significant concern.
But wait, there's more.
Well, that's the second.
That bill is the consultant welfare bill?
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's exactly.
That's what I call it.
I'm thinking about changing businesses.
I actually, when I heard about it, I knew you would love it. I knew we would get to hire more consultants for more issues. I'm like, Luis Laredo is going to love this.
I'm thinking about changing professions.
He will be out there.
I'm sorry that Mike committed to do survey affidavits.
But wait, as the mayor said, there is more.
There's more.
Senate Bill 452 will prohibit the mandating of medical practices or treatments or the wearing of masks to access public property. Number one.
But be more specifically, it does say, oh, sorry. Is this
Number two.
Sorry,
Number two, we cannot require our firefighters, our EMS professionals to be vaccinated. However, if they are wear masks. However, if they are injured or affected by COVID, we must pay workman's comp.
No, that wasn't the one I was so much. The other one, I mean,
is there a third one?
No, I thought there was the one where you can't wear a mask if it prevents diseases.
Oh, yeah.
The spread of disease. I mean, I think that language is literally in the bill that you cannot wear a facial covering if it is intended to prevent the spread of disease. So if you cover it in cholera and wear it, technically, I think you're okay.
Yeah. No.
But otherwise, it's against the law.
Yeah, and unfortunately, obviously, the Florida League of Cities is very concerned that these actually bills will be passed, and they're going to have a major impact on municipalities. So.
Yeah, this is what they're spending their time on in Tally, by the way.
Yes.
We've got all sorts of climate change. We've got water quality issues. We've got education issues. But let's worry about freaking masks.
Yes. So Quick update for Public Service Commission. We met with the executive director and the deputy director. We did review the state statute, which is the Storm Protection Plan Cost Recovery, which does focus on major storms, although FPL is taking it to be more about their ability to protect and recover their lines that affect their bottom line. However, the rules have been changed, and we did go over the rules, and I will share you. This is very long and tedious, as you can imagine. That does specify it step by step what FPL has to submit for their annual or their 3-year, 10-year plan. It talks about understanding current practices and how they do it. And again, as I mentioned before, that plan will be submitted in April, so we need to have an ability to impact that between now and then. We had a follow-up meeting with Florida Power and Light, Irene White and Armando Fernandez, just talking about how they implement that. And then we will have a follow-up meeting with them on November 16th to talk about options on how we move forward in the village.
Get me away from that meeting.
You're not coming. Unless you want to, council member. Or vice mayor.
Ms. White, the head of governmental affairs, who you mentioned?
Irene White, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Visit to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. I went through that pretty clearly on the, we basically met them with the Resilient Florida grants. Just to be clear, there is $694 million available to be spent. However, there was $2.6 billion worth of requests. So it's going to be a very, very competitive process, as you can imagine. But Florida realizes, the state of Florida realizes they are addressing a significant concern, which is resilience. And so they had an anticipation that there would be that many requests to come in. We met with no relation, but Senator J.R. Williamson, who is the chair of the House Infrastructure and Tourism Appropriations Subcommittee. He will be our push on the House side for our $550,000 request for Crandon Boulevard. He supports it, and he also supports our request for the recurring cost to access bill bags. We did not get an opportunity to meet with the Senate side. I called him Senator, excuse me. It was Representative J.R. Williamson. Senator Gaynor is the Senate side. We did not get an opportunity to meet with him. However, Mariel Bailey has passed on our information, and we'll do a follow-up meeting with him through Zoom. Had an opportunity to meet with our representative, Nick Duran, and identify the priorities of each one of our appropriations requests. Had a great meeting with him. We actually shared dinner with him as well. Unfortunately, Senator Garcia was not available to meet with us when we were up there. However, we did have a pre-meeting with her.
We sort of met with her.
Mayor, I wish you wouldn't bring that up.
Yeah, there's a story there.
There it is. We'll let the two gentlemen talk about it. And then lastly, actually probably one of our best visits was to the Florida Department of Emergency Management. We actually walked in there and they seemed somewhat stoic for the first 5 to 10 minutes. But actually Kevin Guthrie, who is the executive director, as we were about halfway through, almost jumped out of his seat and looked at us and said, you know, I want to do a concept plan to figure out how we do a pilot plan for coastal villages.
That was the best.
Figure out how we identify mitigation requirements that we can do working with the state, federal, and local levels. So we've reached out to him. We're continuing the conversation, and obviously as that progresses, we'll keep you posted. So that was probably one of the most exciting parts.
And he's going to go to Washington, correct, as soon as possible to present it to the federal government, which to us was like, wow.
So we're following up with that, and more to follow. We'll keep you posted. But all in all, very productive.
Really good.
Very productive visit, and I'll let the mayor and the vice mayor add anything more if they'd like to.
I'd like to add one thing. You know, you deal with a lot of people in your business career, and since I'm so old and have a long career, Steve absolutely flabbergasted me. He was so good. I mean, forget about bricks and this. He has all these initials, ABC and CGE, and he was talking to the people, and you know, Michael and I are there like, huh? What the hell is he talking about? But he presented everything in such a manner and responded to everybody. I mean, it was such a pleasure to be with him and see him deal with these people and the respect they had for him. Maybe they didn't understand him, but they had respect, okay? So, I mean, it was terrific. I mean, it was absolutely... It was so good. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Tallahassee. I've spent a lot of time talking to different people, but never, ever in all my time was it ever as good as with Steve when we were there. And I think Mike feels the exact same
No,
way.
I absolutely concur.
He didn't understand anything either.
Yeah,
Neither
I didn't
one
know
of us
what the hell
did.
was going on. It was like Latin, and but no, it was great. I mean, and
Unbelievable.
Steve was able to communicate with people, and I think that engaged them on our side too. I think that was really helpful because it got them understanding our issues in a way that electeds we're not going to be able to speak to the people in the administration as well. So no, it was excellent, and it was a lot of fun to feel like we were moving the ball, and we were actually, it wasn't like that trip to Washington where we had people talking to us about blue money and green money and orange money, and we just wanted freaking money. And, up there, they came to us with solutions. Like we talked about the DEM director, and I think that's the most exciting thing
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they basically take care of stuff after things happen.
Right, and they want to try.
And Steve has basically said, hey, do it now before things. And the guy thought it was great. Spend the money now, get a pilot program to see how we can mitigate so we don't have to basically repair afterwards. And he was, like you said, he shocked us, absolutely shocked us that we're going to moving forward.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. But I think what I learned out of there was that I should be wearing a beard. So that's what I've begun to do. So thank you for the kind words.
Everybody had.
I have this report that you just made is under the effective and efficient team category. And in pursuit of that, I wonder if I can make it as an incentive for efficiency that whoever, either Jake or Todd, gets started on the park, either Paradise Park or the beach park, first gets an incentive, monetary incentive. It's not something we
If it's the will of the council, we'll put it in place.
Because people are hungry for something, and I figure if that can maybe speed up the thing.
Yeah.
I would think they're motivated by professionalism and dispatch.
All right.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is mayor and council members, village boards and committees. Councilmember Laredo, a motion to codify advisory board and committee regulations.
Great. Second direction to the to Councilmember Laredo, get with the attorney and let's bring back an ordinance. I think it's a great idea.
No, but that's what we agreed at the last meeting.
Yeah, that you're going to bring back
You were
something.
going to bring back an ordinance.
No, that he was going to be back on.
No, you were.
You were.
You were going to talk to him and get together?
Right.
But
We agreed to put it on
you had
for
the
the motion,
design.
so there's the action
So
taken.
I just seconded the motion.
And then that
Yeah.
was-
So we'll direct, Councilmember
present-
Laredo to
get back,
get with.
that's
and-
Oh, I thought he was bringing it back.
All those in favor?
Bring it back the way you want it.
Opposed? Motion?
We'll get to work together.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that I missed.
All right, good. So
By
next
the way,
item.
on that issue, there was a clarification so that you all know that I put in the obligation of the clerk. If you make note of this, Councilor, also it should be the first obligation of the staff liaison and/or the chairman of each board to inform her, so then she can inform us. It's a small but significant change.
Okay. Technically, she'll inform me, and then I will go to you guys and say I need people for the positions. All right. Okay, so now we've got, next item is the clerks.
Next item is village clerk proposed 2022 village council meeting schedule.
Move.
Yeah. No.
I was gonna ask you a question.
I'm gonna ask that, I want to hear some recommendations, but you got first budget workshop on my birthday, so I'm not here.
What day is
The
that?
next one's the day after 4th of July. Then we got a meeting the next week, July 12th. Were you just in a bad mood when you did this? You're just like, I'm gonna get those bastards. 2 weeks to turn around minutes, I'll show you. Yeah, just sorry. No.
What are you
Mr. Mayor,
proposing?
we don't need the first one too, because that's community group presentations. We
Okay.
won't be doing that next year.
Was
Done?
that was what I was going to the June 28th?
Yeah.
June 28th
We
is-
don't need that at all again.
No.
Perfect.
We only need one budget workship and because we won't be doing community groups separately.
Well, then, I mean, but I'm not,
28th.
Could it be the 28th?
let's do it the 28th.
I'd prefer.
Oh, that's your birthday?
It's my birthday, but we can do
Oh.
the one budget workshop on that day, but then we get the 5th off.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd rather have July 5th off.
Do you want to change the
You
28th?
really
for your
just
birthday?
want to be sitting there on your birthday so everyone can wish you a happy birthday.
No, I want to sit here because I want to say, hey, let's get this stuff wrapped up. I want to go home. It's my birthday.
All right, you want Ed to sing too.
Yes, I do not. Actually, that'll be my first motion. No, I mean, we need to do it. We can't do it any time sooner
Okay.
And look, we've got a meeting June 14th. Let's just leave it there. If we decide to move
Only
it,
one budget workshop.
one budget workshop, and then the July 12th. Do we really need a meeting July 12th? Can we have two in August? Would that kill anybody?
It's fine with me.
All right, let's do us two meetings in
There's
August.
3 in June, and then we didn't meet till last week.
I may suggest the last week of July, so we don't overload.
Yeah, but I mean, people are on vacations. It's, okay, you want to do the last week in,
Yeah, I'm
so
trying to
let's
do
do
it.
July 26th then.
So what, the 26th?
Yes.
Instead of
July 12th.
Mayor, I was going to ask you for consideration on January the 11th. I don't know if management, although the next
My
week is
mind.
a terrible week.
You read my mind, council member.
Yeah, it's December is relatively
I have no
slow.
problem.
People are getting back. I know
So
schools start-
January 18th?
Yeah, a lot of our population who has families in the southern hemisphere.
That's fine.
When do you want it?
January 18th.
Either the end of, I was going to say the 18th, but that falls in a terrible week, the clerk, because that's Martin Luther King is on the 17th.
Should we move it to the 19th then?
And then what is the other day that you said?
Thursday, it's no school on the Friday, so I was just worried.
Oh, so that week
Not
people,
Friday before and the Monday.
I was worried about residents not being here, so that's,
Who, the residents, not but us.
okay. I just wanted to point it out.
January 18th or the 25th? Well, but then it's too close to the 8th.
What day would you suggest, Madam?
So what's wrong with the 11th?
No, the 11th
It's
is
too
too
close.
soon, too close after the holidays. I get that. I understand.
That doesn't give us enough time
Doesn't
to
give them a
prepare.
lot
the
of time
agenda.
to staff over the holidays. What kind of Grinch are you? You don't care about them celebrating the holidays?
Oh, of course I want them to celebrate. I
Well-
just needed to know what the problem was.
No, that is too, there's not
So
that
January 18th is good. Does that work for everybody? Are we good on that?
Works for me.
much. January 18th.
Perfect. All right.
So we have the
As
18th.
amended,
As amended, moved.
second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Carries.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.